audio for a second. Sorry about that, chat. I just realized that I forgot to grab my link to the chat box.
Oh no.
Grayed out for a second. Sorry about that. I was futzing around with other settings to try and make this process a little smoother, and it's not. I can make it smoother on my end, but it still looks bad on YouTube, so we're gonna still be dropping a few frames. We're trying to adjust it. It might be a little too big. Also, I had to rebalance my window from accidentally deleting my window capture last week. I hope those of you out there enjoyed last week's stream, the Valentine's special, but the video seems to be going, and we're clocked in. There will be a little bit of latency to try and keep things more smooth. But we're here. We're back. It's normal fail Portrayal.
And we're here today to talk about the easiest card game on the market. You know, it's just so easy to lab this game. We all know that.
Okay, what prompted you? Okay, what prompted this?
It's a funny one. Okay. See, I can tell Axe is not a high intaker of social media.
No,
at the very
I'm having
least,
chest
you
pain.
don't.
I've been having chest pains all day.
Well, this has been like for
last
a week,
week.
So
Yeah,
but
this was last week.
you know that's a fair runoff as well. So there's a couple things we could talk about because you know effectively took a week off from actually discussing Yu-Gi-Oh.
The only part of this that I saw was the original post on Twitter one night. I was kind of like, that's funny, got off it, and then like 2 days later, everybody was posting a Yu-Gi-Oh a video on YouTube about it. I'm like, oh, like stuff happened when I wasn't paying attention. Okay.
Yeah. So the process there was there's a. I think it's, even though the post wasn't on TikTok, I think there's a Pokemon TCG TikTok account, like on Twitter, that basically like posted one of those stupid meme images of like
The starred tier list
of what card games are most difficult.
Yeah.
And it was like, why do people say Pokemon's so easy? You know, because I think Yu-Gi-Oh's towards the top, if not at the very top, and they're like, I bet all this stuff, you know, blah blah blah. Usual stuff. Now, immediately, some people on the internet correctly assumed this was bait because it was bait. They're a blue checkmark account.
Yeah, if you ever see a blue checkmark account with a wrong opinion, it's engagement bait to get like 10 cents off the thousands of reactions on that post.
Yes.
That's
No.
The weird thing about it
That's
is, like, it's not all blue check mark attacks, but mostly ones that seem like actually trying to pick up a fight.
Yeah, no. If you like, I understand that just because of the way
There's
Twitter
some that
has
have it
become
so they actually algorithm
enshittified,
bullshit.
some people do just have to fucking pay for blue check marks so that their fucking marketing angle can be seen, can be perceived. But in general, if you see a blue checkmark account posting something incendiary, it's bait. You know how people would go on 4chan and post bait? They still do, but you know, it's the culture, the internet culture's moved on. Yeah, imagine if they were actually getting paid for that. Unlike what everybody said on 4chan image boards about being paid to post bait. You're actually paid to post bait because you get payment for reactions on X.com under our, current evil overlord Elon Musk. The shadow government man.
He hates casting spells.
Indeed, he
regardless.
does hate casting spells. He's casting spells would be too cool, and we all know that he's a huge loser, and I can say that because this is YouTube.com. Anyway,
Can I be in the world?
So yeah, it's obviously bait. So I know a decent number of Yu-Gi-Oh people didn't bite because they were just like, it's a fucking blue check mark. He's trying to get reactions.
Like, if Varfa like really filmer, like fucking, just like this is bait.
Yeah, no, like he literally caught it. But one guy, Galzo, did bite because he said, money match, you pick the deck. Obviously, I think, even in retrospect, joshing a little, right? Like, I would not expect to issue such a challenge and get a serious response from a bait post on an X thread. You know, that's just kind of the shit that happens. But apparently this did go through because he had a follow-up post saying, I got obliterated 0-2. This is when actual Yu-Gi-Oh creators were like, huh? To sell this whole story short, The short version is that Galzo got hustled.
Yeah.
Not only was it a bait post, it was a hustle. Because apparently, despite the fact that the phrasing on the social media account was that there's only one person running it, it's a Twitter account run by multiple people. It was apparently some Yu-Gi-Oh player who posted the bait tweet with the approval of like the account admin, and then went through the process of matching.
Started leaning into the bit. The money match happened. Play Tyrmir. Galzo gets stomped on. The overarching comedy bit of this drama is that a universally bad poster, whose name backwards is Fert, called Galzo Yu-Gi-Oh's Yamcha, and I think that's the one thing that should be archived from this drama. The rest of it is nonsense, nothing.
Well, and I think I saw that part most because Farfa quote tweeted that and was like, "This is a service level of the Sun Bird. This guy's dead," which is true. Like he can never financially recover. But yeah, no, it's a wild one. The kind of the way I think that I know Danny Luke Von Karma did kind of a summary video as well after he just got back from being like sick or traveling or something. And he was like, the short version is, a bunch of people you don't like all look like clowns, basically. Like,
yeah.
Nobody looks good in this. I think technically the Pokemon side of the argument looks worse because it was their account, their guy with, supposedly repping their game that did a bait post and turned it into a money match hustle with a fucking ringer and all that like the levels of looking like a doofus are much higher on that end than on the Yu-Gi-Oh end. We have doofuses, but like we were just doing the normal shit. Like this is like, secret conspiracy shit of like, oh, we're gonna bring in a ringer for the money match. Like, I don't know, man. Dumbass shit. Looking like a clown.
Yeah, the bad posters in Yu-Gi-Oh generally go, guys, my uncle at Konami says there's gonna be a new master rule. that's
or like I think like
this tweet is dated 10 years ago.
Barring some shittier opinions on the political sphere, which unfortunately I think every single corner of the internet has to rankle with these days. The scummiest Yu-Gi-Oh posters usually get about Yu-Gi-Oh is like occasionally a quote-unquote secret cabal of pros will like fake post about a deck tech or try and hide a good deck tech because they don't want the prices to go crazy, but that's usually it.
The funny part, that was true like 15 years ago. Not like at this point the game has become so large.
Alluded to that occasionally happens, but I feel like their reach isn't as strong because everybody's plugged in everywhere. And guess what? If the Infernoble Discord discovers secret new Infernoble tech, presumably everybody who wants to play Infernoble is going to be in the Discord and know.
Yeah, not to mention, all it takes is one person in that Discord to tell somebody else, and the secret's out.
Yeah, one person posts about it publicly on Twitter.com, and then. Yeah, sorry. Somebody in chat just said, if you're still playing blah blah and Ryzeal, you're behind. Yeah, no, dumb shit. Which is another like viral tweet from a couple weeks ago. So yeah, no. So it's all in all, it's very silly. I personally think that like I agree with some people on kind of the back burner of like the cliquishness of card games is a little silly. Like, yes, technically the companies that make our games are competing for market share, but we shouldn't fucking fight that battle for them, We should stand apart as neutral observers, so the corporations have to actually produce a better product to compete with each other. But anyway, yeah, that was another funny one that's been percolating over the past couple of weeks there.
And in better and less, slightly less and less funnier news, a lot of alt arts came out this week, which
yeah. So
well,
JP
some
is
last
doing
week
the
and a lot
quarter
this
century
week.
art collection, which is the. They're saying it's the last chance for the quarter century collector's arts. It's the 3rd year of the 25th anniversary. Though I've said this before, like I know MBT and a couple others keep making this joke. Technically, they're not wrong though, because like the OCG started like 2 or 3 years before the TCG, but they're releasing the 25th anniversary branded products like in both sides. So it is, I think they have set this up to be bookended by the 225 years, if you understand what I mean, chat. But yeah, this is allegedly the last of the 25th anniversary. So they're releasing a lot of QCRs and a lot of alt arts. One of them is pictured here. New alt art for Lady Lab. There's another one that I'm sure you're all just as interested in, which is Diabel.
We also got
Diabel Star, I should say.
Nibiru.
Yeah, there's a
We
Nibiru.
got Nibiru last week, which I mean, I forgot to say, but I was a bit confused when I posted in the chat that no one recognized what it was from the stat line.
I mean, I think you gotta remember that a decent number of people who are in our Discord don't play like Yu-Gi-Oh for real.
I mean, I guess so, but
and may not remember. But yeah,
Nib's a card that's been around long enough. I feel like people should see that stat line and it triggers the neuron in the brain.
I mean, I recognize him just because I'm like, okay, light 3, like you said, the stats and the level and all that stuff. I'm like, yep, that's oh, it's the Nibiru alt art. It does look very different, but we've seen him. We've seen what he is. This is also
we
very
know what the
funny,
primal
by the
being
way.
is.
This is immediately funny because Worlds Colliding, another funny thing to talk about with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is apparently Konami has found, Master Duel specifically, has found some money in their marketing budget to find content-type people that you actually watch.
They've hired the entire newest HoloLive.
Yeah,
generation.
so they've got, they've set up 2 of these. One, they've got a couple of members of Advent, the last generation, to do a build up to a duel. Unfortunately, sadly, they have saddled everyone's favorite Rock with Eldritch. Yeah, they gave Bibu's going to represent Eldritch because, of course, the twins Fuwaboko have to be live twin.
I mean, they are purple and pink. What else did you think they were going to say?
I mean, they gotta. I mean, I would have given Bibu Cyber Dragon.
Did I say purple and pink? I mean blue and pink.
You did, but that's okay. We all understood.
I was thinking of actual something of like laser beams and rocks, but
well,
yeah.
The thing is, Axe, no, they're not going to do that because remember the Tactical Trideck. The Tactical Tridecks are Live Twin, Eldritch, and Cyber Dragon. These are also real products available in the OCG. So, and also they did do a thing in Master Duel. So, yeah, they're going to stick to that. But also they are hosting a content creator semi-celeb tournament, people who play Yu-Gi-Oh, which of one of the members is going to be ERB, Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame, of their HoloLive's newest generation, Justice. And apparently they've just got the whole Justice crew to be in it, because they're gonna apparently, cheer her on and stuff in the tournament. So all of them decided, or were sponsored, you never know, to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And so Nibiru is very funny because I believe it was last night one Gigi Murin was being taught Yu-Gi-Oh! With a coach. And I believe she was on Live Twin. But her opponent was playing Labyrinth, and Gigi got Nibiru'd. You did 5 summons. After playing into Max C.
Look, everyone has the moment of thinking, well, what's the worst that could happen playing into the Max C challenge? And then you give your opponent 20
well, especially if she, because I saw, I haven't watched the stream back, but I saw clips of it. I think she was on Live Twin. Like that's that's the one hand trap that will really ruin your day. Obviously, like you can run the gambit and be like, you won't beat me if I summon a few times. But to play the live twin combo correctly, you have to play at least 5 There's no way out of it. You have to summon 5 times. You can't do your combo without summoning like 5 times. And that's all without like negates or anything. Also, I did post this earlier as well. There is a screen cap that was taken by Jaxel from Curry Bandits. But it's of GG opening a grip of Valor, Ash, called Imperm. Hololive's GG Morin, welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! You are truly one of us now. Destroyed by a giant rock and cry. Drawing, oops, all hand traps. Well, he's apparently called in sick to work, but he's not sure if he'll join us. So we'll see. We'll see if he joins us on stream. But yeah, so like,
we'll see how it goes.
I don't know, man. Like, it's funny to me. This is interesting because like, Konami's been trying with Master Duel this whole like Shadow Duelist thing, which is like neat, but the amount of like celebrity overlap is, I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know if they're truly bringing new people to Master Duel with this, and I don't know if there's enough crossover with the general Yu-Gi-Oh! Playing public to really care about it. But Hololive is super big.
Yeah.
So like bringing in a hitter is you know, it's fine. It seems like it's worth the build up. I mean, I think we can't forgive Konami for setting up Bibu to play Eldritch with Skill Drain. But, you know, we'll just have to live with it in our lives. But yeah, so one of the funny alt arts they've shown up is Dia Bellstar, you know, leaving her girl failure phase.
Yeah, like this is girl failure erasure. I won't stand for it.
There's one that apparently annoyed people, but there's an alt art for Lightning Storm which has Chimera Tech Overdragon of all things on it.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm gonna throw some shade at a bunch of people on Twitter. No one in particular, just everybody. The people bitching about the alt arts of these cards, like very clearly leaning into decks that played them and saying these are bad, are stupid. I think they should die. Not really. I'm joking.
In my
but I think it should be killed with hammers. Because that's funnier.
Stuff them into a locker.
Yeah, stuff them in a locker. They're nerds.
No, I agree. Like, I mean, I know when this started with, like, the Rhoda alt art that was Sky Striker themed, which I think was, like, a year ago, it was like, okay, guys. But that was also because they were releasing a whole shitload of new cards and alt arts for Sky Striker anyway. Like, they were supporting Sky Striker, a deck which everybody except Konami of Japan is tired of. That's not entirely true. I know. There are still people who are like, oh my god, I love Ray, etc. But, like, I feel like the general opinion of Yu-Gi-Oh! Goers is, like, when you see Sky Striker, you're like, oh, brother, here we go again. So, like Sky Striker is a very pushed archetype, obviously. But these cards, like, I mean, I know they announced new Live Twin support, but that hasn't come out yet. There's an alt art for Called By, which has the Live Twins on it, which is very funny. I appreciate this. And, like, yeah, Cyber Dragon plays Lightning Storm. Of course they play Board Breakers. It's a go second. It's like a blind second deck. And it features Chimera Tech Overdragon. You haven't seen that guy in years.
I've been looking at this, like, quarter century art, and I'm just, like, wondering, is this, like, her after the plot's over?
I would assume so, yeah. It's supposed to be her all fancified.
Probably.
They're not really, like running any serious timing.
I have no idea what it actually is supposed to be.
I think it's just supposed to be cool.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be Dia Bellstar looking cool. Like, that's...
They're I mean, and they're doing reprints, they're letting
cards
out of jail.
It does look like it's her, if, like, it does look like her young version if she just got to go 20 years older, I guess.
They're doing some funny stuff. Like, they're actually reprinting Masterpiece and Dragoon in the quarter century because those cards are off. They're doing the IP Masquerena alt art again, shit like that. So, like, they're doing some stuff. It's cool. We won't talk about it at length because this is Fail Portrayal, and once those decks are actually out, we'll talk about them in full because they're a deck build pack. But the new deck build pack is looking very good. Justice Hunters, they've shown off 2 of the archetypes. Dragon Tail is a spellcaster dragon archetype that involves fusion summoning, so it's probably good.
We took the we took the most bat parts of DM and Blue Eyes and said, make them have a baby.
Yeah. And then obviously the deck that has throttled everybody's brain is the new Yummy archetype.
They looked so great. Like just no notes unironically. They have made these cards just so eye-meltingly cute that we are watching the jadedness fade from so many Yu-Gi-Oh players just looking at the Yumi cards.
They're just a pack of little guys. They're little light beasts, so you could probably run them in AFD if you want, or do anything. They're a small enough engine that you could do a lot of shit.
Yeah. I can't wait for them to somehow be tier -1 or something, and everybody hates them.
We'll see. A lot of people are worried. They're comparing it to Prank Kids because it is a deck that interrupts your opponent because you cycle back and summon a lot of guys and synchro on your opponent's turn. But the stuff you cycle and sync for is pop 1, shuffle back from graveyard. It's good, but I don't yet see how it's annoying because I don't think they have a negate, or did one of the field spells have a negate? I don't remember. They've got a couple field spells, so they seem tailor-made to cycle into the AFD stuff, which does have negates and other annoying shit. But you can do a lot with a little, Light Beast synchro stuff. So there's still plenty of room for some very interesting things. And I just love the archetype aesthetically because it's not only is it just a crane game, it's specifically UFO catchers.
Yeah.
It's a UFO catcher type game because you can get snacks in those, but also stuff. So there's those are 100 yen a pop. You have to pay 100 LP. To do you make your opponent pay 100 LP to do the thing.
Yeah, look, to cycle around to the drama we started with, the fun part of Yu-Gi-Oh is yes, it can be too complex for its own good, but also in embracing its complexity, it allows there to be archetypes like this where they're just able to make archetypes play a different game than everybody else, but in fun of them using ways.
Yeah, just straight up, chat. Set this up correctly. Look at this guy. Look at this little guy. I've thrown up Cups of Yummy on screen, and yes, I know.
Yeah, I mean, are you gonna look at this? Are you gonna look at this silly little guy, and tell him that he's just adorable. He's the best. Look at him. He's great.
Sorry, chat was asking about, they announced a whole bunch of, to kind of finish off some of the stuff they're doing, they announced a whole bunch of more Final Fantasy crossover Magic the Gathering cards, which look pretty cool. Good arts.
Yeah,
I don't think I know enough about
really
Magic
funny.
right now to get into it. And also, we probably want to do that in a 14 stream because, yeah, Emmett Selk's cool, but, also, huge spoiler that the FF team is just tweeting out. So I don't think we're going to do that inside Fail Portrayal for the uninitiated.
The best card that I've seen is the Giant Cactuar, which is a 1/7 that when attacks becomes the 10,007.
Yeah, he gets the 10,000 needles. It's fucking rad. No, most of these look good and sound good. They did a couple of the biggest titles got Commander rep, specifically designed for Commander. One of which is Y'shtola, Cat Warlock.
Y'shtola,
because you can't
a
put
man who will not be named.
It feels. I mean, he's over. Which one? There's 6 of those.
Well, that's what I mean, right? You can't do Meteor as John Final Fantasy because, like you said, he has a different job every trailer, and
there's Emmett Zelk there, and
just a normal guy.
Also Y'shtola is her literally directly her Shadowbringers version, so it's I don't know how they're gonna you're just gonna have to explain the Shadowbringers thing.
Look, the design of Y'shtola in Shadowbringers is not an abject spoiler. That's the thing.
No,
her name and her ability is a reference to that.
Yes, it is, but you wouldn't get it without knowledge. Emmett is less so because that's got his real last name on the
he's just got like he's just got a blue black effect. That's just kind of on theme.
Yeah, but like there's more to it. So yeah, that's another thing that's looking neat. Before we jump in, there was one last side thing I wanted to mention it as well, because funnily enough, we were talking about VTubers and card games. Yes, Cat Parfait. Yeah, we're talking about we got in the jaw a little because we took a couple weeks.
Look,
took a couple weeks off.
Every failed betrayal starts with like 30 minutes of admin. This is just the new accepted norm.
So sometimes we could go faster, but when we take a week off, basically because we did something else, it gets the backed up. You can't tell me you hate looking at Cupsy Yummy. Come on.
Look at him. Look at him.
He's adorable. But one brief thing I wanted to say, just because it is technically a funny thing we can do more content with later, technically.
I just think of fucking Gav of these things. Just the fucking Gochi Sos.
Well, tell me when we get like the plushes and shit, because I've played a couple of Like a Dragon games. I've slammed the UFO catchers. I've spent more yen than I should playing Crane game.
Look, in Yakuza you have infinite yen though, so it's fine.
Hey, you just gotta beat up some more assholes to play the Crane game.
I'm just
imagining Kiryu leaving the Sega Center and like being like, "You punk, come fight me. I need to beat up your buddy. A small child needs a plushie for a side story. You must die." Caption: Kiryu has never killed anybody. But the other side thing is, because I was actually kind of interested, this was another thing that was a little bit of a weird crossover. I was not expecting MBT to make a video on V-Card.
Oh yeah, V-Card.
How it was
so
kind of bad.
Like a couple of weeks ago, V-Card launched, and I know that I saw a couple of people, like I think I saw Dyer tweet about this, the anti-rule, which I hadn't heard of at all in like their press, because I'll say this honestly, I have a decent amount of respect for most of the talent and the companies who are promoting and like opening gift boxes and shit of the V-Card product as a marketing tool. It was done through a separate subsidiary of like GamerSups, who I know is like got a lot of partial owners who are like actually in the Contentosphere, you know? So like they're not coming out of nowhere. But also very clearly it is being marketed as a game, but this is a marketing tool first, a game second.
Yes. The way I've seen it put best by a lot of people analyzing the game is that they made they got the idea to make collectible cards of VTubers first, and then realized, shit, if we want this to like sell, we got to make a game around it. And more than likely, they just got a bunch of people who played card games in house to go, hey guys, can we make a quick mock-up of like a trading card game with these? And they're like, yeah, sure. It's probably not that hard. And they made war.
And I do want to say, I think there is a cynical side where I want to bet that
it would be better if it was just collectible.
Somewhere in the marketing phase, there were actually some marketing type boys, some people with marketing degrees who were like, okay, we can figure out a way to gamify this in order to incentivize us making more money. Because if this is a trading card game that you can technically play a game with, we can encourage you to want to buy multiple copies of cards because, you know, you have I think it's up to 4x in a deck, for instance.
Yeah.
And also, oh, hey, you know what means people to buy more cards? And, you know, the collecting. And also, I do think there's a little, like, oh, you stole my V-card, ho-ho. Most of the VTubers I know who are involved in this are sufficiently horny to find that joke funny, yes. Also, it's a little bit funny. It's just a little bit.
Yeah, look, it's
a little funny. It's not a lot funny, a little funny.
It's the kind of joke, that you would giggle about when you played V-card the first time, and then when you play it 50 more times, when the 50th person you've played before who makes the joke, you're like, yeah, all right, yeah,
As with a lot of internet jokes, it's one of those moves. But yeah, But I think that, like, some marketing guys were like, this will pass the snuff test because that means that people need to buy more cards. I don't know for sure that that was the plan of the like, personalities behind the card. Because, and again, talking about it being a marketing stunt first, at no point have I seen any of the major featured creators try to play a game of V-Card. Like, they got a lot of big names in there. Like, I know Cinder, the Hellhound VTuber, she's like a partial corporate owner of.
They got Cyanide and Happiness in there somehow.
Yeah, as
like,
one of the
what
artists.
They're the publishers.
Yeah, they like helped with it, so they've got some interest in there. But like I said, Cinder is like a partial like shareholder in GamerSups now. So like that means she's involved in the project, and a lot of her friends as well. I know that they sent a courtesy card to Ray Narvaez. Definitely not going back to Rooster Teeth, who like opened a box. I think there's also a competing project by Merryweather that's like actually more card gamified, so it's hard to remember who's in what card game, because I think there is some double dipping.
The Merryweather one feels like a card game made by game designers. I mean this with no shit people who made V card, but V Royale. But yeah, well, I mean this with no shit.
I think like Heavenly's in it. There's a bunch of the V Shoujo gals are in the V card. Amelie just joined VShojo. She's been independent for a while, is in there. It's shit like that. Like, they've got a decent amount of people who I feel like I have, like, seen them on social media talk shit about having their own ups and downs with bad merch to say that, like, this is a rotten product. But like I said, nobody repping this product are, like, playing the game. Which kind of, I think, proves the flaws, because it's not super well designed. It's basically, the game mechanic is basically war with extra steps, and the language is written very ambiguously about, like, when a turn ends and a new turn begins, and when you're supposed to, like, score stuff, and when is the match over. Like, I think even in the comments, people were talking, on MBT's video, were talking about how, like, oh no, like, the game isn't over when you run out of cards to play. That's, like, hypothetically, if you never had a chance to play a card, because you're only supposed to play 1 and 1 per round and then, draw new cards. But I have seen, like, screen caps of the rules. They're not always super clear. This card game was clearly, like, the game design part was clearly done by, like, either amateurs or, like, game designers who were undercooking a little.
It's either amateurs or people in the game design sphere who do not have experience in specifically card game design, which I do feel is a very unique situation compared to game design in other
It's truly
spaces.
in a case where I feel like, so they're a product that is like very big marketing push, obviously, but has the problem of they're also doing the thing where now they're like, it's like year one of, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, right? They have no idea what they're doing. They don't know what the limits of cards can do, and therefore, you run into rulings issues and clarity, and you have to do all this shit. So, like, it does seem like at least they are committed to making the game part more playable. Because they do have, like, a roadmap for future sets. I think they've already made the anti-rule optional on their website, shit like that.
Yeah, something we didn't outright say about the anti-rule. The anti-rule is not what you think it is. As somebody who's ever heard of the anti-rule, say in the Battle City arc, where you put up one card. No, the anti-rule in V card. If you lose a round, every single card that took part in that round is put on the anti-pile. And there are, like,
everything you played, and then whatever you had left goes in the discard, and the winner takes the whole discard. Now, chat, I want you to know, I hope you understand the problem with this. If you're playing a what do we call it, a tournament scene, a event scene, where normally you're required to register deck lists to avoid cheating, that means your deck list is instantly invalidated game one when you lose.
Yeah, and again, something regarding V card that I don't think anybody realizes, it's a first to 5 wins. It's not like one round it's over. No, it's first to 5 wins. So you can in theory lose up to maybe like half your deck because of anti-rule.
I don't think anybody remember to play that way. Also, it's one of those card games that they're just asking to bite themselves in the ass. There's no maximum deck size. They forgot to put in a max deck size.
That's that's how you can tell a game is a card game designer did not design the game by not putting in an inherent deck limit. That is like that's
a hard-learned lesson for most of the standbys of the TCG world.
The Dirty Duo story.
Yeah. Also, they do basically have Pot of Greed and Delinquent, like they have hand ripping and draw engines in the deck, which is very funny because, like I said, the actual game mechanics are super simplified. It's basically war. Your VTubers, your talents are like 8s, 9s, or 10s. But the person who has a lower power when you like reveal cards goes first, so they get the advantage on that. So there's like less of a point to play that. You get a mulligan rule if you can't play a VTuber, so like it's a little weird. All of the mascots have like the same powers, so it's just got a lot of number escalation. Like I said, I don't want to shit on these guys for like they went to printer and printed a product, and I saw some people like putting scare quotes around this, but I think this is actually like a genuine factor. They make a big deal in marketing of saying they are championing real artists, and I think they are, because I believe they credit all their artists, really, and they don't use AI art. Some of the art is more median because they're printing a full card set, and like even modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, not every card they print is a banger. But hey, Magic the Gathering has had to several times go, whoops, our bad, somebody snuck AI past us. Snuck AI past us, scare quotes. We didn't think you'd notice, whoops. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very infamous for, like, one of their big, like, overall detractors is they do not credit their artists, period. Never have, probably never will.
Yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Situation are basically people, like, reverse engineering random artists' work and finding out, and finding out, like, by proxy, oh, it's that guy. That
yeah,
guy
I think there's, like, a handful of, like, famous artists who are able to, like they have enough like connection in the industry they can straight up tweet like, hey, I drew this Yu-Gi-Oh card, it's me. Yeah. You figured it out. But most of them don't seem to be able to put it on their portfolio. So yeah. So like I think they have positives. It's definitely a game, a quote unquote a game. It's a product you want to buy to rip packs and like collect cool holos and full arts. Once again, another thing, Yu-Gi-Oh still doesn't do full arts. Like, yeah. But the gameplay part is hilariously funny, and we could demonstrate this for ourselves because it's on Tabletop Sim already. We could do
full
an
arts in
episode
Rush
of
Duel
FP.
Omega.
It's true.
So
they do it in only in the TCG are we denied full arts.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Tuert hates us, and we should consume him someday. I don't know. I think he's still the senior most guy at Konami of America in the TCG department. Anyway, and Hope is a girl's name. So yeah, that was just an aside that like I was really surprised, but like genuinely check out the video MBT did. He actually got a VTuber to be the other half of it with him.
Yes, and Nova is also the only person I've seen play V card, I think.
Yes, no, like well, that's because I think her big rep is that she plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Among other card. Like, she's a VTuber who's about card games.
Her bit is she's the card game dragon.
So, like, of course she would actually play it to check it out.
She also really likes playing Vanguard.
I was a little worried about MBT because, like, I do kind of feel like he and a couple of the other, like, content-type guys still don't quite get the VTuber thing. And MBT's a professional hater. He has a couple of gags in there that I'm like, all right, buddy, that's not your best work. But genuinely, I think the video, he was much more focused about, like, I'm actually trying to understand this card game, and I think it's not a good card game. And then he plays the game, and it's like, okay. So, hey, you may see, just for shits and giggles, we might cram in an FP episode somewhere and play some V-Card on Tabletop Sim, because it would be funny.
I mean, that's an April Fool's episode if I've ever heard one, I think.
Yeah. So we'll keep that in mind. But yeah, no, like, if you like ripping packs, go for it. I did double check because, like I said, I saw, like, every fucking VTuber I've ever heard of, practically, you know, outside of, like, Hololive, who are also running their own TCG, which is actually also supposed to be a functional game. Though I don't know how accessible it is outside of Japan. Physical shipping sucks ass.
Yeah.
But, the like, I actually looked at their pricing, and, like, for a booster box, it's about the MSRP you'd expect for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster box, but not like a shitty Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster box, like a booster box that we know has good cards in it, so a little up there. Loth in chat, it sounds awful, I'm in. Yeah, y'all are ready for me to run. I don't even know what deck I would run.
One main thing to crimp on V-Card one last time before we get into talking about our
I've had Roland on screen for like 10 minutes.
The idea of having increments of VTubers is cool. The problem is that realistically, they like the first like this first set of cards, the 8s and 9s have no purpose to actually play because it's functionally war. So why are you playing the lower value cards? If you can control your deck, you can just play the best.
But the thing is that the higher value, basically the way it works is all the high value cards are Blue Eyes White Dragon. They have no effect text. They're just big. So
yeah, but like,
it's smaller one.
They're still combo playing.
I also want to say I think they kind of did a weird thing because like I feel like they're going for more the Yu-Gi-Oh style of like there's no inherent resource limit. It's just the game is over when you run out of cards. But the values are much like more like boosting Magic the Gathering numbers, and there's a little bit of like tribal identity with the elements, but it's weird. It feels like it's not fully formed. Chat, by the way, my 5 cents, steal my idea. If I was going to make a VTuber card game, one, I would probably make the numbers bigger. I would add double zeros because that's more cool. Bigger numbers are better. But I would not make it like a war thing. I would make there some kind of value system about the audience, and I would just make it be about trying to gather more audience.
That's just Vice Force.
Hey, if it works, don't.
Because
if
Vice
it ain't
Force
broke,
is really
don't fix
about
it.
playing basically the joke is you're basically two producers fighting for a time slot.
I mean, I feel like that's what I would do about VTubers, though, is I would be looking for the slice of the audience, like, and then you would play cards to, like, boost your audience, the equivalent of, like, channel points or donos.
A removal card just a scandal.
Yeah, I was going to say removal card, Twitch ban, eat a ban. Like, there's a lot of fun you could do there, and you could still do the elemental tribal thing, like, that's cool, and certainly, like, VTubers have enough fucking lore that you could get out there. Also, obviously, your biggest bet would be to score a brand deal with Iron Mouse because you could print a different Iron Mouse card for every day of the week at this point, for every outfit she has. I think we're approaching the point where you could print a different Iron Mouse outfit for every day of the year. No offense, men. I love Mousy. But we all know she has a fucking website to track her outfits. Reverse life points, yeah. So like there's I think there's like you could have made it cool and like incentivized like all the, because obviously that means that like your splashier art or your funnier or spicier outfits are like more audience, duh. But yeah, let's talk about Infernoble. So Infernoble, we got on this because I discovered a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Warrior Strike and Fire Warrior stuff that the first couple of these cards debuted in Warrior Strike R, the retrain of the Warrior Strike deck, which, as we said, got chopped up into Toon Chaos in America, and then lots of other like really weird stuff in there. Just a couple of cards, like this guy Roland. This is Roland, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a very funny thing with the localization of these cards, because I don't know if the TCG realized what we were doing. So the first two, Roland and Renaud, are Infernoble Knight - Roland, Renaud. All future Infernoble Knights, there is no dash. There's no hyphen.
Oh.
There is a hyphen in the original Japanese, and then they just decided to drop it, and I don't know why. It still works because they're all, like I said, Infernoble Knights. It's just very funny where I'm printing the text of these card names, and I'm like, hey, why do, like, Astolfo and Malgus and stuff, hell, even the Synchro version of Roland, like, there's no hyphen. What are we doing? I don't get it. So there's some very funny stuff, but these are all Fire Warriors. They do not go into Xyz like the regular Noble Knights. They go into the Synchro side, which some of them do, which is funny because I believe the primary Noble Knight Synchro is Lancelot. Not trying to say Londisland or whatever, which is funny because Lancelot is French. And obviously the Infernoble Knights are French because they are primarily drawn from the Paladins of Charlemagne.
Charlemagne, yeah.
Which, if you've followed any of this channel's FGO content ever, you would know that the way that, like, medieval and Renaissance writers worked was that once the Song of Roland was written, basically a lot of other writers went, that's really cool, and bolted that onto the end of the Arthurian mythos, like fucking straight up Merlin and Morgana like show up in some Song of Roland related works. The Matter of France, they call it. Which is also already after a whole bunch of writers bolted on a bunch of classical mythology, usually considered either the Matter of Troy as kind of the complex of Iliad, Odyssey, Aeneid.
And you can even trace it back down to like you go straight up Arthurian lore, where people went like, let's put a French guy in there. And
like there's a shitload of fanficking in the Arthuriana. Like a lot of stuff about Percival. Parzival is like German. The legends really get around. So they did, I think, a very cute thing of like, okay, we want to make fire warriors, but we also want to add to the myth of the noble knights. How do we do that? Infernoble knights. Get it? Which is, it's the way it works in Japanese is they are flame holy knight. Yeah. Enseikishi instead of just Seikishi. So like it all goes together.
Like cute little grammar thing that thankfully can still be done in English
without just doing like fire space noble knight, because they obviously all the infra noble knights count as noble knights, though there's very little overlap, mostly because the noble knights are all light or dark warriors, or both.
Yeah, like the only like good overlap is probably, I would say, maybe Merlin, but even then Merlin's like never been a great card in the noble knight archetype to begin with.
No, he's a weird guy.
Like, incredible card. Like you read him and he sounds like crack for the archetype, but he doesn't do anything.
The primary card that was the bridge was one of the newer noble knight cards anyway, and it's called I Sold.
Oh yeah, the big one.
Until she ate the ban in most formats that aren't Master Duel. Isolde was the functional bridge because her ability to add warriors and bin equip spells to summon warriors is attribute agnostic. And guess what? The Infernoble Knights are warriors with levels, and they have equip spells.
Ezra, you didn't miss anything. You missed our 40 minutes of admin. And we just started talking about Infernoble. So you didn't miss anything.
Stuff. We're literally on the first card. We're explaining how the deck works. So, like, first of all, if you want to do crossover between Noble Knights and Infernoble Knights, you can't really. A couple of the equip spells carry over. I think some of the, like, spell and trap cards might work. I'd have to double-check how stuff like Until Noble Arms Are Needed Once More, Heritage of the Chalice work. Those might be generic enough to work. But for the most part, Infernoble kind of eventually formed a core of a Fire Warrior strategy that was really good. I think the note for this stream is, remember when this was meta? For a little while in 2020, when the initial couple waves of support came out, this was a top-tier deck. This was the deck that was good after Block Dragon got hit, and Mad Emancipator kind of faded out during, admittedly, during peak COVID format. So, like, how good were they? It's a little hard to tell because, people were still not going out to tournaments. But this was late enough in 2020 that, like, remote play existed. People were doing, fan run tournaments on simulators. So, like, this deck was for real, like, very top tier. Probably exactly until Smoke Grenade of the Thief got banned. We will look at that later.
Yeah, a large majority of Infernoble Knights, like, meta shenanigans came about just because of things like Smoke Grenade of the Thief and just any other equip spell that you can loop to cause problems, quote unquote.
Like, I'm fairly certain I've seen variants of this deck that run a bamboo sword package for consistency because that's equip spell based. You can search Cursed super easily, so if you get a golden, that's just, fucking Pot of Greed type shit.
I mean, it's like, is it sort of deep-seated? That always goes back to your, goes back to your...
the one I think that was banned was Phoenix Immortal Blade.
Yeah.
Is another one that always returns. Deep-seated at least costs 500 to return. I think Phoenix Blade, because we looked at it last time, is like discard one to return.
It's something like discard or banish two to put back, or like some.
Yeah,
something
Divine
like
Sword
that. But yeah,
Phoenix
like
Blade is
Moonmere Shield, sort of deep seated. Like they were not like consistently played, but there were always those cheeky little builds running those kinds of equip spells to try to get multiple procs off going.
Yeah, and yes, Phoenix Blade is during your main phase. If it's in your graveyard, banish 2 warriors, add it back. Can only be equipped to a warrior. It's only 300 attack, but it's an equip spell that does the loop. You know, there's a lot of other shit. Then there's, you know, I also want to say that, like, another thing that really came in was that kind of helped this deck was that, so Barone is technically an archetype card, right? Because that's the De Fleur archetype. The woman who used those in 5Ds played generic Noble Knights, holy warriors, basically, in 5Ds. So, like, obviously there was, like, synchro support there. I don't think any of her cards but Barone, any of the new cards they did really added, though you might see the Centaur Mina card, because that was one of hers, like, in a few things. But the fact that, synchro, like, you do get Fire Warrior locked eventually in this deck, but if you play it right, you can go to Barone as well, is, like, there was just a lot of stuff helping them out be good. And obviously, I think they just kind of faded because synchro's gotten a little less.
Noble came out at probably the perfect time because like you had the Barone stuff, the Phoenix Gearfried stuff that we talked about a little while back. Like there, it just happened to circumvent like a kind of prototype of the Year of Fire we have with Snake Eyes, where there just happened to be a critical mass of random little fire guys and that came out, and also just good synchro generic bullshit that Infernoble was able to capitalize and just combine everything into a little mess of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm another card that was very important to this was another little Link 2 who got banned earlier, one Halqifibrax, because that requires tuners. And this deck plays tuners and synchro tuners. So basically, after the like Block Dragon Adamancipator, you know, Yep Rock soup kind of faded. And I think I don't think any cards were really banned out of it, other than maybe that was a time when like Skill Drain was bouncing up and down the list. I think Eldritch just fell out of favor because we fucking hated his guts. Because like Eldritch is a late 2019 deck.
Yeah, like Eldritch fell out of favor just from pure fatigue at that point, similar to like Dragon Link. Like Dragon Link has never like in the point it was meta. It was likely meta for much longer, beyond after it stopped like getting consistent like dominating tops. People just got bored of playing Dragon Link because it like the combo was just so. I don't want to say brain dead as a bad term, but the deck played itself. It's one of those kinds of like combo decks.
There are truly decks in Yu-Gi-Oh that are autopilot. That are like. Yeah. As opposed to like, hey, Chad, you want to know what my hip new deck is with the Synchro Fusion Festival? Your boy's out here playing White Forest Azamina, which is a deck that is not autopilot. It is it's one of those decks that I've seen like MBT talk about of like, people say this deck is good, but I don't know what the deck does because it does everything. He's not wrong. The deck is like, I want to make a joke about it being like a forest of interactions, but it's true. Like, every single hand that is not 5 hand traps, yes, I still draw those, but every hand of Azamina White Forest that is not 5 hand traps is like a fucking nested flowchart diagram of like, okay, so there's about 4 different things we could do here. Let's just start activating cards and see what our opponent stops. If you can pop off, you can make an in-archetype end board of like 4 to 5 giant guys, and also you can make Chaos Angel and Guardian Chimera and other shit in there too. God help you if you're not in the Synchro Fusion Festival, you can play Azamina White Forest Fiendsmith as well in Master Duel now, which also means you have access to a fucking rank 6 Axis with more bullshit. So like there are decks that are lots of complicated nested interactions, and then there are decks that are like Smooth Brain. Infernoble Knight is not a completely Smooth Brain deck, but it's a deck that's like, basically you start with a handful of starters, and your end board is very similar, especially when Smoke Grenade was legal. It was, how do I get to Emperor Charles, loop Smoke Grenade, hand rip my opponent for at least 2, sometimes 4. Like, and everybody who's played a hand rip format knows, if your opponent rips 2 cards out of your hand and they have a full board set up, you're probably going to have a bad time. If they rip 4 cards out of your hand, unless the card you're left with is God himself, you're fucked. You got to go home. You can't win with 2 cards. It's just not how Yu-Gi-Oh works.
Reinstalling Master Duel, realizing that I just didn't have any recent decks of a long while, I just kind of started, like, I just booted up. I'm like, I'm in Rookie. Let me just grab like my Leaderless deck, because like it's like the one complete deck I had. And man, sometimes you pull up a deck that you're like, I played this before, and you're like, oh god, what are the lines in this thing again? Because especially a deck like a whack ass rogue deck like Leaderless, where it's just cards that every single card reads special this guy and just something else, and you're just kind of like, okay, like what's sequencing? Good lord, how do I do this again? It's always fun playing decks that have so many like branching interactions.
And the funny thing is that like you said, Leaderless is still rogue. Like, it's still like, if people refuse to read your cards, you can still kick their ass.
Yeah, no, I went up against a Galaxy player my first duel, because I was made to go first, because they're playing Galaxy. They won the coin flip. I just made I made a I forget which one it is now. A Symbol Nightingale, the one that you you detach and you deal like battle damage. They summon the Galaxy. I summoned Monster, so I chained it, and then they went full combo, and I think realized at some point they couldn't kill me, and they died because they went full combo for like a full minute after I activated the effect that said I can't take battle damage this turn. I don't know what they were doing.
No offense meant to our audience members or panelists who play Go Second OTK decks. You know them: Galaxy, Sidra, Blue Eyes.
I've played them before too. They're fun.
Yeah. But
it's fun to get the
specifically people on Master Duel Ladder playing Blind Second OTK decks. I think those guys are mostly just playing those decks because they don't want to think. They just want to make Numby big and win.
Yeah.
Those are usually the decks where like I set up a couple of interruptions and they just fold like an omelet because they're like, well, I wasn't expecting you to stop me from killing you. And I'm like, yeah, no, buddy. Arguably, I think before they banned it to High Hell, I played it for a while. Tenpai was kind of the same, but Tenpai was also a deck that, like, because it doesn't have, 25 years of support like some of those classic anime OTK decks, is your number of options are very limited to your number of Tenpai names. So if you do somehow miss the couple of important names, mostly the Tuner Chundra, you still die. Like, if your opponent stops a couple of your key plays before you get set up, you're like, well, I can't OTK you now. So it's a very fun, very funny time to get in and play those decks.
Yeah.
And also, I want to say another one that's the Blue Eyes thing actually is another like micro thing that's going on just now because the structure deck just came out and it's good. Apparently, there are a lot of Blue Eyes old heads who are bitching that you play like a 5-card Primite engine in there. Like, the deck is still like 80% Blue Eyes cards.
This conversation comes up like every few months in Yu-Gi-Oh, where like you. And again, this is not meant to bash the casual playing audience. They are a large majority of the player base of Yu-Gi-Oh. A deck that like the idea of a deck that is not playing pure archetype is that somehow meaning that it's not actually that deck is a very casual brained mindset that I think really should die. It's fine to smash them together and see what happens.
Most of these decks, like, are still, like, I think we can pick a bone with, like, sites that post deck lists that are, like, they list 4 archetypes in there. One of the archetypes has 3 cards, and it's like, okay, buddy. I don't know if I would call this a blah, blah, blah deck. But for the most part, most decks are running. And also, I want to say, like, I hope they're not complaining about, like, non-engined as in, like, hand traps. I'm looking at the Blue Eyes Worlds list from 2016. 2 Maxi, 2 Valor in here. Like, they're playing, you know, generic. They're playing, like, 2 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast and Vanity's Emptiness in this deck. Like, there's hand traps and generic breakers in here. So, like, that's not worth complaining about. And the thing about the reason why you're playing Primite in the Blue Eyes deck is because it's a fucking tiny engine. It's 3 copies of, like, one of your 2 normal summons in deck because you're playing Blue Eyes and you have a shitload of huge guys. And, like, a couple of spell traps that work just with normal monsters. Like, what's the complaint here? It's just a micro engine.
Yeah, and this is not meant to be not meant to be lampshading casuals, but another thing is, like, it's perfectly fine to rep your pet deck.
And also, I want to say to chat, it's perfectly fine if you don't want to buy Primite as an engine because it's fucking $80 right now. There are alternative engines that are cheaper, but
look at me, who has had like 5 pet decks become tier 0 meta slop, and I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I love that shit. I don't care that
chat knows me, right? You know, I was one of those guys who was like, fuck you, I'm playing Tenpai. I don't care how much you hate big dragon go burr. I'm dragon going burr.
I should play Kashtira before everyone hated it.
I mean, honestly, you probably should have. Like, early Kashtira was... Shangri-Ira was a little annoying, but once they got, like, Arise Heart as, like, okay, we're going to lock all your zones, we're going to throw all your extra deck face down, and we're going to make Macrocosmos, was like, man, that shit sucks. Like, Kashtira is actually a deck that, ironically, as it got more cards to play pure, got more insufferable. These days, Kashtira as, like, a small engine or, like, a part of, like, the Visa Starfrost, like, soup loop is, like, interesting. I don't hate it. I play, like, a couple Unicorn and a couple Fenrir in other decks that use the 7 access. They're, like, a very interesting engine, but I definitely did not like the ye old day when you would boot up at Master Duel Ladder and you would run into a guy playing nothing but Kashtira full combo, and it's like, okay, well, I didn't open my hand trap, so this is going to end on a Rise Heart Shangri-Ira, and I'm going to lose, like, half my extra deck, and all my zones are going to be locked. Nah, man.
Look, Kashtira was my favorite Speedroid engine to make Barone.
It's a funny one. It works, too. Like, and that's the thing, right? Like, I think a lot of decks are, like, annoying as... can be annoying pure, but can be much more fun as engines. And God knows, because I end up, when you're trying to prog in Master Duel, you end up playing a lot of the decks over and over again. I'm on Twitter these days. Axe, I have terrible news. Forbidden One Millennium has won. I have unfortunate news. I have learned that I do not like this deck, thanks to Master Duel.
It's fine, I just own the cards.
I think they're cool in concept, and I love the retrains. Ankh specifically into, I keep forgetting what his subtitle is, so I just call him Exodius Bigalisticus. That guy, I hate that. Like, Ankh into that guy, that shit sucks. It's the most free summon of, like, a guy who's halfway to a towers ever. It sucks. He's 1 spell trap negate, he searches a board pop, and also his effect is if he battles, his attack points become equal to your life points. So, like, he's a fucking 8k asshole, too. And he can't be destroyed. So, like... and then the subtweet is a lot of those Millennium monsters are about protecting spellcasters and illusions, so they make him even more hard to out. So, like, he's an annoying asshole, and like I said, I don't know why they gave the deck a literal free. You don't even have to send it's reveal you have 5 pieces of Exodia, shuffle them into the deck. Cool, great, thanks. That said, I took great pride in probably being more annoying to the people playing that deck. In the Legacy format, I just played Trickstar. We're back,
baby. Would you say Great Gold Pride? Would you say Great Gold Pride, Omega?
Well, no, because I burned them, not the other way around.
Damn.
But no,
anyway,
talking about annoying decks, I played Trickstar. No, we haven't talked about what Roland does. I need to take a bio break. Because we've been going for like an hour. Let's take 5, chat, and then we'll actually talk about Infernoble. because we like to yell about Yu-Gi-Oh. So I'm gonna throw up the Gone Fishing sign, and I'm gonna mute my mic in Discord, and I'll be right back, y'all. Sorry we're yapping so much.
Look, we had a week off. Like this is just what happens every time we have a field Portrayal with a week off, where we didn't get that first like 20-30 minutes of nonsense to yap last week, so it just bleeds into next week, and we end up with a full hour of yapping because we just don't want to shut up. Can you? Omega's not deafened, so that you can hear us, right, chat? I think so. Okay, yeah, they can hear us. Cool. Hell yeah. Did you leave, Axe? Where are you? You can talk still.
I'm just being I'm just depressed right now. Sorry.
Nah.
I have something to really add, I guess, unfortunately.
Well, you know what? While Mega's gone, hey chat. I've had a goddamn weekend with weather. I don't know. I don't know how we pissed off Poseidon. Poseidon has inflicted hell on us this week. Saturday, we got flooding so bad I had to drive home in about a foot of water on main roads. It was great. Then overnight, that water turned to snow. We got like 6 inches of snow just froze overnight. Then Sunday it was like an ice storm. And Monday we just ended up with even more snow. And every single time the most we got was, oh, there's gonna be rain. And we've just gotten snow like 4 days in a row now, and I love it.
All right, we're back.
Let me find the weather alert thing that I got on Saturday. It was great.
Yeah, you gotta hate when you see that. I mean, luckily it was inaccurate, but I remember in January when we had like a really cold week here, my computer fired me a weather alert that was like, possible 8 inches of snow expected, and I'm like, you know, even in North Florida, that's crazy. I'm like, there better not be fucking 8 inches of snow. I'm home alone, and we're definitely not prepped for that. It was not that bad.
Yeah, and
it did get sub-freezing
and
times here, though.
At one day this weekend, my phone had 6 separate severe weather alerts.
Jesus
it was
Christ,
great.
I'm seeing it, yeah.
Like, granted, half of them were like the same thing twice, but it was a lot. There was a lot happening.
Yep. So, Oakley and or Dokali. Infernoble Knight Roland. We have not really talked about how he looks, but you've seen him. They are going for a slightly different thing here. Yeah, he looks good. He's obviously got a sword of fire.
My one gripe is like the weird piss aura around him, but his look is good. It's more just like the weird yellow aura looks weird around his head because of his hair already having the red and yellow like dual tone, with the yellow on the outside of his hair. Yeah,
he's got basically I want to say 4 primary colors. He is red, he is yellow, he is white, and he's got black. But he's got a little bit of blue. He's got a tiny bit of blue in his tie. Good note.
A little splash of blue. You know, it's good. It's good.
I do like that they're going for a more, like, I almost want to say formal look. Like, the original Noble Knights are all just big dudes in armor, you know. They're pretty normal-looking guys. A lot of the Infernobles, while some of them do still have armor bits, are a little more dressed up, and Roland is definitely one of those with his fur-trimmed cape over his suit coat jacket.
Yeah, it's kind of a running theme, say for maybe like 1 or 2 of these guys, where their armor looks more like formal wear as opposed to actual armor. And I kind of dig the vibe because it sets them apart, like immediately sets them apart from the other Noble Knights as their own thing, as opposed to just being a kind of needlessly tacked on subtyping of Noble Knights that just feel like they could have just been Noble Knights.
No, these guys are truly a sub-theme. There's a little bit of crossover because they're supposed to be, but they are generally in design language doing their own thing. So, Roland is a level 1 fire warrior He's really setting the tone. Somebody at Konami went, level 1 fire. We're going to remember this. He's 500.
Konami will remember this.
He has a quick effect that says you can target a face-up monster you control, equip this card from your hand to the target as an equip spell that gives them 500 attack. If this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, during the end phase, add 1 Fire Warrior except Roland or an equip spell from your deck to your hand. Each effect is once per turn. So you'll notice this does not archetype check because this wasn't an archetype yet. They printed a couple of these cards in a structure deck and then decided, several months later to be like, okay, we'll make it a real archetype. Even so...
Yeah, it was more just like 1 or 2 guys they experimented with as a kind of like extra equip spell engine.
Yeah, so, he in the end phase, searches a Fire Warrior or a equip spell. Those are both pretty generic, but pretty good searches. A good way to, like, reload your hand with stuff. It is a quick effect, so hypothetically, if you were, like, in a game state where you might have, like, a turn 3, you could equip it after you'd done your combo if you got him some other way and still get him to be, like, sent there. And he is a quick effect to be 500 attack, so he's kind of an attack trick. But we're not, really standing on our own yet. It's still pretty normal stuff. But he equips, he searches Fire Warriors, he searches equip cards. It seems like it flows pretty good.
Well, so actually, I just had a thought. In Arthurian legend, the Knights of the Round Table are just knights, correct?
Yes.
Whereas the paladins are like explicitly nobles, correct?
Yes, they were called the peers of Charlemagne, so they were actually members of his court, and a lot of them
they're
are like
they're part of a royal posse.
Yeah, so which kind of fits with the more fanciful style of the paladins having more of a formal flair to their design.
Most of them are, like you said, they are like related to higher level nobility. Like I think Roland is supposed to be like a distant cousin to Charlemagne, and has all this. Astolfo is a British prince. A couple of the others are from like other like nations' royal families. Except for Turpin, he's an archbishop. He's in this, by the way, because they printed a like. Not only did you get the normal support wave after the first couple of these guys as a teaser, but also they got a huge wave of support in Dawn of Majesty, which unfortunately did not bring this deck back, even though it's pretty cool. Though there have been some attempts to run it with other Year of Fire type decks. I think the main problem is just that other fire decks in that like kind of wave of support were better.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't really do Snake Eye Infernoble Knight as well as you could do Snake Eye Fire King, etc.
Yeah, because like it was mainly just the crossover effects just didn't meld as well as other bigger fire archetypes that were in vogue.
Yeah.
Still good though.
So our next one, speaking of guys who look good, it's time to bring up Infernoble Knight Renaud. Obviously referencing again a like semi-historical domain person. Renaud, who could also be Renault or Renault, thanks for the spellings, of Montauban. So like a guy. He's from they're from a old French, Chancellor de Guest, a medieval song, The Four Sons of Aemon, which are the four sons of Duke Aemon. And he is kind of like worked into the other Italian Renaissance bits where his name is Rinaldo. By the way, he is riding a flaming horse in this art.
We got Ghost Rider up in here.
Sorry, but my screen preview was super delayed. That's because this is supposed to be Bayard, the magical horse once used by St. George.
Oh, hey.
So yeah, we again the funny
St.
crossover
George
works. Renaud has a distinct look from Roland. Like he's looking a little more armored, but still very fanciful. But his color scheme is almost entirely the black and red with a little bit more of like a grayish white.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of like meant to be silver, I would assume, is the idea. But yeah, it just kind of feels more like a an off-white as opposed to silver from the texturing. I will say the piss aura is much less harsh on this.
Yeah,
guy.
he's kind of like, it's because I think he's like, this looks much more like he's backlit with like golden light, because there is actually like that brighter area in the background behind him. Like this looks more like, you know, because they make a joke about them being, you know, fire holy knights. So they're still holy knights, so there's still some holy light in here. I also want to say excellent use of the fire as just like much more of an accent color of like the horse's mane, its eye, his sword. We do get to see the Infernoble crest, you know, up front and center here.
I do also like the two like the half strand of white and like hanging down and like the full strand of white pushed back. It does give him a like not aged look, but it makes him look traveled.
Like, it gives him a little accent on his way. So
a little like visual notation of he's a well-traveled knight of sorts.
Yes, and of course, speaking of like them doing, you know, the very funny get out there. First of all, this guy started as a random V-Jump promo, and then they brought him back later. So he was translated to Toon Chaos in the TCG. He was not actually in the structure deck, but presumably it was a promo to rep the structure deck. So Renaud is a Fire Warrior, level 1 also. He's got 500 attack, but 200 defense. The magical number. If you control a Fire Warrior, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you special summon him this way, treat this card as a tuner. So he's a level 1 tuner with a free special summon.
I missed when 200 was the magic fire number and not 1.
Yeah, I know. We really worked that out with Rekindling. You can special summon Renaud once per turn this way. If this card's special summoned, target one of your Fire Warriors or your equipped spells that's banished in your graveyard except Renaud, add it back to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So Renaud actually sets up this deck with something interesting. Regular Roland is a little weird because he's just like an equip guy. He's like a union monster who's not a union because he can't even de-equip himself. But he does like give you a way to search and add power. Renaud is actually, I want to say, like a centerpiece of this future archetype because he's basically a free special summon if you have a Fire Warrior in your hand. And when he does so, he becomes a level 1 tuner, very important. And also, if you special summon him for any reason, you get to add back a banished or graveyard card if it's a Fire Warrior and equip, and just reload it into your hand. Which obviously we talked about how Phoenix Blade works, right? It banishes 2 warriors. Well, if they're Fire Warriors, just special summon Renaud, 5-head.
Both of these guys were very powerful. Like out the gate, Renaud and Roland were pretty great extenders. Just for like warrior synchro plays. Renaud, needs Fire Warrior, but even at this point, it was like Link synchros like seizes were I had just become so prevalent that it was like you just got to get to a Fire Warrior, and it was nowhere near as I'm trying to think of words are escaping me right now. But
it's just not that tough to make the attributes match, you know. You can, especially when, like we said, the structure deck R just came out in Japan and then was released as a set in America, which is all about various weird Fire Warriors, and continued to add weird Fire Warrior equip-based cards. We talked about that one guy, I forget his name, but like the Friend of Fire or whatever. It was the Fire Warrior guy who was like had a flaming, you know, eagle and a bear or something with him.
Sublimation Knight, is that the one, or
no,
different guy?
Different guy. But Sublimation Knight's also a good example. Like they've continued to support this concept of just playing a Fire Warrior deck, so it all really like did work out. So like there's a lot of interesting ones. And now this deck eventually did become real. Konami looked at the couple of cards they teased out. You know, like Roland was a one-of in the structure deck. And Renaud was a promo, presumably to promote the structure deck. So in Rise of the Duelist, they decided to start off strong with a whole archetype front half. And alphabetically, the first one of those is, funnily enough, we're pasting correctly. There we go. In for a Noble Knight, Astolfo.
Did we get a synchro early on in the Infernoble, or was it just these two guys?
Yeah, it was just those first two guys. They did not have a synchro. It's and I think it's because Renaud counts as a tuner. He's not actually a tuner, so they were like, you can kind of do the fire synchro thing.
I guess fair enough.
So this is Astolfo.
Great.
We're kind of combining, I want to say, the design elements of Renaud and Roland, where he's definitely wearing the super fancy, like, top half, but over his lower half anyway, it's, oops, all armor plates.
And you look behind him and realize, he's just like a dragon boy for some reason, too.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a weird cape thing going on.
The cape looks like wings. He's got, like, weird hair decks in his hair.
He's got little, like...
He's got the little face armor that all the dragon humans have in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, he's got the not aura scales on his face.
Yeah.
He's even got the white strands of hair. I mean, he looks at even breaking down this design is busy. I mean, anybody who's paid attention to Fate lore, let alone actual Charlemagne tales, Astolfo was always extra as shit, and
Astolfo was always the one that actually
the
joke. I think the bit was he was always meant to be the one that was actually pretty amongst all of them.
Well, yes, because the reason why Astolfo's a cross-dresser in Fate is because there's a gag where he does dress up as a woman in one of the operas. It's not just out of nowhere.
Yeah, because the only one that
actually... I think it's while drunk, Roland makes a joke to Astolfo about, looking good as a woman or something.
It's also a thing that Astolfo,
whatever,
I think, is an actual thing where Astolfo literally has a thing with a friend of his where they literally bang married women to prove a thing about loyalty. They bang over 100 married women with him and
yeah,
bro.
Astolfo is a player in the works. Also,
yeah.
Talking about losing his reason, there's a beautiful moonshot in the background here, but
definitely knew what they knew what they were doing with Astolfo, because at this point, especially in Japan, you cannot say Astolfo and not
this would be 2020. So when was the APOC anime?
APOC anime. Well, not even APOC anime. Like Astolfo as a design has been around for a good
the light novel was out for a while, but let me actually double check when they decided to
I'm looking up this as well.
Anime and television. 2017.
Anime.
Yeah. So this was after the point where you can't enter Astolfo into Google and not get the Fate one. So I feel like they wanted to make sure to be a little distinct because we can say it. Astolfo's a Fate Astolfo. He's definitely going past probably the twink zone into the femboy area, being kind of short. This Astolfo is much more lanky looking, though I can see that he's wearing heels. But still is definitely on the softer side. This is not a hard boy.
I mean, aren't most riding shoes look like heels anyway? They just don't look as bad to run in.
And like you said, Omega, like from the top up, he's got the Roland bits of fancy coat, the little blue accent of the necktie. Bottom down, he's more renowned with the plated armor.
Yeah.
And I mean, even down to both the guys having their big old flaming.
Yeah.
I guess it is a lance because
Yeah, I think it is supposed to be a spear. They don't. I'll say this: they were pretty unlike some of the stuff they pulled for noble arms. The infra-noble arms are fairly conservative. They obviously have Durandal, they have Joyeuse, they do Almace and Hauteclair, but they don't reference any of the different named weapons that Astolfo's had. They don't do Cortana, one of the other 3 legendary swords from the matter from the Song of Roland. So they have not necessarily archetyped every weapon, but all the guys do have a little flaming weapon. I also want to say that the mixing the design elements is very funny because in the works where Astolfo is referenced later, because I don't think Astolfo is in the original Song of Roland. He's another character who's bolted on, or if he is, he's a very minor mention. But Astolfo is both Roland and Ronald's cousin, like through different lines. So being kind of like a little bit of both their designs is just, one of those cute little notes that I'm sure the art team thought of.
And especially with the kind of like the release schedule of the second wave, like they didn't have too much to go off of to make him stand out. So making him kind of a hybrid, I think ironically makes him stand out, even though he's not really doing anything much unique aside from the light dragon-esque accents around his face.
So, hey, guess what? Infernal Knight Astolfo is a fire warrior, level 1 with 500 attack and 200 defense. Crazy, I know. You can banish a fire warrior from your hand or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, then make this card's level become the level of that banished monster. So just in a archetype that is now going to be a synchro archetype because they added synchros with these waves. Level fixing,
modulate.
good. It's good. Also, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon this banished card during your second standby phase after this card's activation, then special summon one of your fire warriors that's banished from your graveyard. You can use each effect once per duel. So, Konami obviously, I think, knew they had a powerhouse archetype in here. Astolfo is a good extender, but both these effects being once per duel is like, or even a good starter, I should say, because it's you banish to summon. So getting a guy on the field. But they clearly were like, okay, we have to be careful about looping these effects forever. Obviously, I think his second effect of summon this banished card during your second standby phase after you activate this effect, where you banish him from your graveyard, that has to have almost never come up in most games because that's like, that says your second standby phase, so this has to be that, like, on one of your turns after you put him in the graveyard and banish, like, 4 turns later. That's a lot of fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! To play, right? Because presumably you're like, that's got to be at least turn 5 by the time that effect comes back. Possibly turn 6.
Even by 2020 standards, 2 standby phases is an eternity in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. So, like, that probably didn't have to be once per duel, but I understand why they put that clause in there, because if Astolfo was infinite recursion, just banish himself, summon himself back forever, I could see building deck, like, states where just this guy keeps coming back. It's really annoying. But as a, like, starter to level modulate, Astolfo is probably a pretty good one. I think for most of the deck lists at the time, Astolfo was not super popular, which is, again, very funny because of the naming convention. But, like, definitely, like, probably should run at least one of as a name you can search super easily, because you can, again, like, just put some guys in your graveyard and level fix him.
He definitely was, like, a one of included in a lot of early brews.
Yeah.
He fell off as the deck became more fine-tuned and people figured out the lines, but he definitely accomplished his goal early on with that burst effect.
And I do want to say that, like, I think that there's definitely a sub-theme we're going to see with the Infernal Knights of, they have a lot of consistency tools. Like, they have a lot of ways to get guys back, because this was late enough that Konami understood, oh yeah, shit, like, you're gonna, like, link off for Isolde, or, you're gonna, like, bin guys from deck. You're gonna banish guys to re-add your Phoenix Blade, obviously, because we printed those. I'm pretty sure Phoenix Blade was reprinted in the Warrior Structure Deck R. Like, so Konami knew all these interactions were gonna happen. So they have longevity tools, one of which is our next card, which is going to be Infernal Knight Malgis. And to add Malgis, or Malgris, is another one of Ronald's cousins.
Oh my god, it's Caster Coup.
Yeah, kind of. He is actually, like, he's got a staff. He's actually supposed to be, like, a wizard and an enchanter. Like, in the stories he's from, he was raised by a fairy, and he, like, obtained the horse and the sword that Ronald has and gave him to him. So, like, kind of doing like a little baby Merlin play, except he's, just Renaud's cousin.
Ironically enough, I think he has the highest stats we'll see for a while in the archetype.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Konami realized when they were like, okay, we're gonna make this Noble Knights was Xyz, so we'll make these guys synchros proper. Wait, whoops, we already made Roland, and he's a level 1 non-tuner like baby monster. Like regular ass Roland is kind of a chump. He's a little guy. We need to fix this pronto. So Astolfo has a level fixing effect, and to spoil Mogus a little, he's a level 4 guy. So like they realized they had a problem with levels and stats that they needed to fix.
Now, I will say, chat. You would think we're talking about him. Sure, he's a spellcaster. No, that'd be dumb.
No, he's a warrior.
That would be stupid. They learned from the mistakes with Merlin, where they just kept him a warrior, even though it doesn't really make sense, because sometimes archetypal synergy is more important.
We have to preserve the play of the archetype
Yeah.
than adding attributes. Unless we pre-built a fire spellcaster thing into this deck, but they were like, nah, we're not doing that. So costume design-wise, Mogus is another guy who's looking very distinct, right? You know, he's got a flaming staff or spear, could be both, instead of a sword. He's still doing kind of like blacks and whites.
I didn't even notice the Pistol on Astolfo just because his design had so much else going on. We're back to harsh Pistol. I know it's fire, but it's yellow. And it's a very vibrant
it's a
yellow.
weird holy backlight.
It's golden to me.
Yeah.
I guess that's
I don't know. I wouldn't say this is. And obviously, everybody does perceive color a little bit differently. None of the fucking eyeball cells in your eyes are the same. But this looks a little more yellow than gold to me, like his aura. But that also could just be because the brightness is turned up a little too high.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like holy backlight, you know. But still, costume design-wise, again, a little busy, but not too busy. He's still got the primary, white, black, red. The blue accent is he's got the two-toned hair again, but it's, blue, anime blue hair, fucking Fire Emblem ass blue hair, but he's got red in it. Years before N-Gage came out. He's almost got the Yu-Gi-Oh! Spellcaster dumb hat neck thing, but not quite. He's just got a weirdly raised collar and double pauldrons. He's got fur trim on like the well, I guess technically it's the skirt of his robe because it looks all detached. So like it's I don't hate it, but I do want to say Mogus is starting to get in the territory of too busy, where like this guy looks like runway fashion, right? Like he's got like overlapping jacket flaps.
Yeah, I can see the idea they have with Malgus, where because I think the part where it loses me is like you said, like the strapped belt and the double pauldrons. I think if he just had because I don't even mind the coat like overlapping on his chest. I think that's fine in concept, but he just has so many like roby clothy layers on himself that you kind of just lose sight of what layer is what.
And I also want to say just a practical thing. This guy's like hot, right? Like physically he's warm in there, right? Because he's holding a flaming spear and he's got like 3 or 4 layers deep in some parts because he's got like long sleeves under his like detached robe sleeves.
Yeah, he's a fire mage and at bare minimum 3 if not 4 layers.
Like yeah, so it's one of those things where like I get the idea, nice attempt. I think the artist got a little too overly happy with the design elements and it got a little out there, but it's still okay. I don't like
upside. Really dig the hair.
Yeah, the hair's a good
like the blue hair and red highlights in the front look really really good.
Also, sorry, I just looked at the way this guy's name is written in Japanese. Ooh, that is definitely not the correct pronunciation. They wrote his name as Ensekishi Moji.
Moji.
With like a G sound or a J sound, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. I mean, it happens a lot. Like, it's kind of the weird issue of like Japanese phonetics always gets incredibly fucky with like very specifically European languages. It's an incredibly bizarre like phonetics of trying to force it to work.
But yeah, so Malgus is a Fire Warrior level 4, as we said. 1500 attack, 1000 defense. While this card is an equipped card, the equipped monster can't be destroyed by battle. Pretty simple effect, pretty good one. And then you can use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card's sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle into the deck 3 of your other Fire Warriors or Noble Arms card that are banished in your graveyard. Draw 1. If this card's in your graveyard, target 1 warrior you control. Equip this card to that monster. So hey, remember what I said about them being a crazy recursion engine? Yeah. So this guy who's a level 4, by the way, one of your starter synchros is a 5-play sync 5. This guy just lets you reload 3 Fire Warriors or Noble Arms, so that's equipped spells that are in your graveyard or banished. So first of all, if you do send Malgus after doing an Isold play, and like, I don't know, maybe dumping 4 to summon Malgus off Isold, then summon Renaud from hand, you know, because he's free, and then becomes a tuner, and you sync 5, you get to shuffle 3 back. You get to reload Isold, which is crazy. But also just in general, you can reload, you can shuffle back your Fire Warriors you've banished for Phoenix Blade to get more equipped spells, to draw 2 or draw 1. Like, it's just crazy, you know, amount of consistency and recovery. And also in graveyard, he's equipped to a guy, make him indestructible by battle. Just very funny stuff you can do there.
Yeah, the recursion of Infernoble really was its strength. And on the topic of Isolde, I'm just going to grab one more member berry because it really was the best thing Isolde was before she became the biggest problem in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
I will never not love the era of Table 500 of Isolde send as many crystals as possible for the most psychic damage to the viewers.
Yes.
Isolde
dump 8.
10.
Isolde dump 10.
It truly was the best thing Isolde offered to Yu-Gi-Oh!
And obviously a lot of decks when we're running Slim was like Isolde dump 1, right? But this is a deck where legitimately you can play Isolde dump 4.
Yeah, like for the most part, I think you saw like the best equipped spells you saw like always saw as like Phoenix Blade, Living Fossil, DDR. Like people playing Isolde usually played like 3 to 4 just best generic equipped spells if they had Isolde, and if they're playing Infernobles, well, they played the noble arms equipped spells a few, so they could have more flexibility.
Also saying this doesn't reload Isolde. No, that does. Isolde's bin equipped spell effect is not her summon effect. That's just her effect. That's her main phase effect.
Isolde's summon effect is add a tuner warrior? What is it? Just warrior?
No, just add 1 warrior from your deck to your hand.
Yeah.
But you can't normal summon, special summon, or activate the effects of that monster that turn.
Yeah, if you've watched some seasons of Master Duel, you are fully well aware that in Limited, Isolde is a problem because you can just get all the good equipped spells to make her invulnerable, and just forever send 1, send 2, send 3 to get infinite assholes out of your deck.
And Malgus, hypothetically, if you like, it's not the full 4, but he can shuffle up to 3 cards that are Noble Arms or Fire Warrior. So if you're playing Infernoble, you could use him to shuffle back just 1 equipped spell so Isolde can send 1 to summon 1 of your level 1s. Like, that's the crazy thing about this deck. Sorry, yes, no, yeah. Obviously, I think normally you send 4, but, like, you can shuffle back 3. That resets at least send 1. I think, ideally, you're not going to keep Isolde onto the field, but like we just said about Master Saga, depending on your format, you can do that, though, because, like, this guy can then equip to Isolde, because she's a warrior, to make her indestructible by battle. So it's like, then it's like, is your opponent going to spend removal on Isolde? Like, there's a lot of dumb things you can do in this deck setup. So, yeah, he doesn't, like, alone set up Isolde to reload for 4, but, like, he starts that process by letting you shuffle back up to 3, so you can set more cards back in deck. And next, we have our next level 4, another very popular guy. And also, I do like his art variants here. But this is Infernoble Knight Ogier. based on Ogier the Dane, who, in addition to being involved in the Song of Roland and stuff, is also a big part of Scandinavian sagas as well. Funnily enough, in Denmark, Ogier the Dane's supposed to be kind of their king under the mountain. Like, he is yet another legendary guy who's just supposed to be taking a nap until he's needed again.
Yeah, and looks like Japan has Ogier, which
Yes.
I think is right. Is that right?
Yeah,
Ogier?
that, like, if you're going with the more like Danish pronunciations, his name is like Holger. So like Ogier is probably better, but sorry, I'm just reading. One of the Scandinavians is Odgir. So like, yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously in French, Ogier is probably more accurate. It's one of those, again, the because we're working off a bunch of different languages, it's funny. He is the one who's supposed to have the legendary Cortana, or Cortin, or Cortana, but that is where Cortana in Halo gets her name from. But he's surrounded by fairies in this because, according to some later works, he goes to Avalon and bangs Morgan le Fay, which is where he gets a lot of magical swords. So
Based.
yeah,
I mean,
based. Wood. I agree. Same, buddy. But also, like, that's why he's surrounded by lots of little fairies, because he's chilling in fairyland. Great notes. I do like this more natural background because, one, it means there's nothing remotely resembling the piss aura. He has, like, I think a very faint white outline, maybe, but it's hard to see against the green.
Yeah, and even then, like, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards already kind of have, like, an outline already set them apart from the background to begin with.
Yeah.
It's just more so that with the Infernobles, it stands out because it's such an aggressive color.
Yeah.
Segmented from their designs.
But yeah, he's rocking he's rocking the mostly white and black base, looking a little bit more armored, but still kind of sleek. But he's got the red outlines, and then his accent color is like he's got normal blonde colored hair, and then kind of has a fiery orangey yellow like highlight. It's great.
Yeah, and you can even catch more gold trim, kind of like accenting various parts of his armor from like his a little not bandolier, like a kind of like belt, the little stripes on his cloak. Looks good. Look, just no notes. Really,
yeah, this is a design that's not busy. No, yeah, there's not a lot.
I wish I had anything to add because like it's cool.
He's good. He's straightforward. This is
I appreciate that all the fairies are all the elements except Earth.
Yeah, and they're all a bunch of different colors too. But also I want to say, well, the yellow one might be Earth on his head. I don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh sometimes uses yellow for Earth. I also want to say, like, obviously we can make plenty of points of comparison, but I feel like Fate is one of those ones where, you can make lines but don't have to. Honestly, Fate is usually pretty good about its armor designs for characters who actually wear armor. I also want to say, I think a positive comparison is for Ogier here is he's looking like a good Fire Emblem character design, where he's got some of that anime swish to him. He's got long hair, he's got tied in the side in his ponytail but it's not enough where it seems super busy. Whereas like Malgus, as our previous example, he had post-promotion Fire Emblem character design art where like you promoted him from like Dark Mage to like Druid,
Shadow
Sword, like one of those promotions, and it's like, okay, my guy, why do you have giant pauldrons on top of your robe? How will you lift your arms to cast spells now, my guy?
Why do you have pauldrons on pauldrons on pauldrons?
Yeah, no, like Fire Emblem usually has pretty good designs, and obviously I think when they were 2D and sprite based, they had to be more exaggerated to pop a little. But like sometimes when you get into promotions, you're like, okay, why is my guy wearing 3 sets of armor now?
I'll be back. I need to get my mail.
Go for it. Let's talk about what Ogier does then. Ogier is a fire warrior, another level 4, so another one of your basic comboers. First of all, while this card's an equip card, the equip monster can't be destroyed by card effects, so the other half of Malgus's effect. and then each of his following effects you can use once per turn. First of all, hey, chat, we finally found it. We found the normal summon. If this card is normaled or specialed, add a noble, or you can send a Noble Arms or Fire Warrior except Ogier from your deck to the graveyard.
We love a Foolish. We love an in-archetype Foolish.
Yeah. So this guy is basically like, I feel like in the combo, Ogier is basically replacing like Armageddon Knight for just Warrior slop decks, because he basically does the same thing in archetype. A Fire Warrior or a Noble Arms, send him. And this is, like, again, so far the only guy we've seen with a fucking normal summon effect. And then, if this card's in your graveyard, you can target a warrior you control, equip this card to it.
It's also nice that...
and he's got 2,000 defense, I think I forgot to say.
Like, it's a normal, but it's an on-summon effect. It's either or, so
yeah.
Even in a situation where, well, I guess I'm sending 4 to summon Ogier off Isolde, you're not getting punished for it.
Yeah, you still get him. So that's a good one to work that out. And then our last main deck member of the squad before we jump to the extra deck, because there were a couple of those. This is in for Noble Knight, Oliver. Should be more like Olivier, you know, because it's got an IE, but they went with Oliver for the TCG spelling.
The Japanese does seem to go for Olivier.
Yeah, Olivier. So Oliver, or Olivier, is Roland's best buddy. He is the brother of Roland's, betrothed. And I do like him because in the Song of Roland, Oliver is the put upon bro as, like, Roland is being mobbed by, like, 10,000 Saracens and stuff, and is like, no, I can't blow the horn of Oliphant and warn King Charlemagne, then I'll look like a doofus. And Oliver is, like dying in the river, like, Roland, you dumb fuck, blow the horn. Blip.
I feel like I like this design, except for his face, and I keep looking at his face.
The shade, so they're actually doing, like, proper lighting. I agree that I don't hate it, but I also don't like that they've got the shadowing on his face, especially because he also has a second sword, so, like, you could have gotten away with universal lighting. But the shadows make some of his lines look a little weird, and, like, is it just me, or is teeth a little weirdly clenched?
Yeah, I don't know. Like if I just cover his face, the rest of this design looks incredible.
Yeah.
But something about his face just looks slightly uncanny that my brain cannot stop looking at it, trying to process what is wrong with it.
We wanted to put a little too much work into it, which is a shame. But no, this is another one that's pretty good. He is, like, mostly red for a first, but still has, black under, white accents,
and
silvery
he's
white.
even got yellow and orange accents, and I think, like, usually that's too many, like, close colors that's too many, like interacting colors on the color wheel to, like, meld together. But I think because they commit to it so aggressively, it works.
Well, and because you know what it's referencing, right? It's fire. So he's, like, red into orange into yellow is, like, the colors of fire, so it works. And he's got kind of, like, a more orangey hair, but with the yellow streak. He's got a cool ponytail. You can see it.
I think the other thing helping him is that because he's so yellow, they gave him more of a blue outline.
Yeah, he's got kind of a whitish blue aura. So, like, this is a pretty good art. I agree that, like, I think it is, like, they should have just given him maybe a heroic smile and, like, played a little less harshly with the shadows, so his face isn't perfect. But all in all, it's a really good design.
Yeah, like if I saw this on just a regular card, I would never, I would never, like, have noticed the weirdness with his face. It's just when it happens every, like, at least one card every episode.
Yeah.
You blow up the card art, you find something, and you're like, oh, I don't like that actually.
Yeah.
But that's, like, one piece of a really good design through and through.
Yeah.
It just so happens to be it's a very prevalent part of the design that your eyes get drawn to, unfortunately.
And so they did a very fun thing with this guy. So Oliver is our first tuna. And you may be thinking, oh, okay, I mean, yes, Renaud can be a tuner, and is a level 1 tuner, which is really cool, but
this guy is always a tuner.
Yes, he is permanently a tuner, and thus he is a level 4 Fire Warrior tuner, with 1,000 attack and 1,500 defense. So they kind of figured out a way to actually like make this work out. They made the tuner the higher level by default. So you actually have a tuner. It's a 4. And depending on your level mixing, a level 4 tuner can do a lot of work. You know, it was a very rare thing for a long time to actually have straight up level 4 tuners. So, and this guy's a fire warrior, so he's super searchable.
I don't think we called it out, but the Fire Sword Roland will be Durandal when we get to that.
Yes.
I think this is
Hauteclair, yeah.
Hauteclair, yeah.
Yes, Hauteclair or Hauteclair, yes, which is twinned, which I think they just made up for anime reasons. I think it's actually supposed to be one sword normally, but we don't care. It's fine. He can be dual.
I mean, look, it doesn't matter. Like,
I learned a very funny thing when we get to the Archbishop Turpin and Almace, because Almace is a katana. Actually, I can spoil it right now. That's because apparently somebody did a very funny translation of the Song of Roland into Japanese, where they called Almace a sword of ice, as in it scatters like snowflakes when it is drawn, kind of like Murasame and other like legendary Japanese swords. So I think the artist team decided to run with that and do a funny and made it a katana because like there's a really weird cultural overlap there, where they goofed up the translation.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. But so yeah, Oliver. First of all, when this card is an equip card, your opponent can't target that equip monster with card effects. So we've got the trifecta of equip effects. Just Roland gives you attack, but you've got can't be destroyed by battle, can't be destroyed by card effect, can't be targeted by card effects. You can use flying effects once per turn. First of all, you can send one Fire Warrior or one equip spell from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, special summon this guy as a level 1. So he becomes a level 1 tuner if that's too complicated for you. Also, if this card's in your graveyard, you can send one. You can target a warrior monster you control, equip it. So, this guy is just a free level 1 tuner. If you can send one card, one warrior, or one equip spell from your hand or face-up field. Which also is great if you're just, like, if you've got, like, Ogier as your normal, and you've got Oliver in hand. If you just have an equip spell you don't need, just pitch that shit. Something that can happen with Isolde combos is what happens when you accidentally draw the equip spell. Oops. Well, Oliver sends to summon, and then he's a level 1 tuner. Or you can just special summon him other ways, or normal summon him, and he's a level 4 tuner. So it's inherently flexible. Again, similar to Astolfo, you've got inherent level modulation in this archetype. And on the one hand, it's kind of like, it's interesting and a little annoying that, like, because of the way Konami designed this deck, they had to do it because they started with a level 1 guy who clearly wasn't supposed to be an archetype yet. But it works out because it makes the deck better, makes it more flexible. So now we're actually going to look at their synchros. We start with their level 5, as mentioned. So they decided to upgrade Roland to make a little more sense with what they got going on. Infernoble Knight Captain Roland. So this is the synchro upgraded version of Roland. And honestly, not that the original Roland was bad. He was a pretty good design, but we're still looking pretty good. We're getting a little close to too many spikes territory. But still pretty good. He switched his kind of color combo to be mostly black, but still got a little white in there. And he's got kind of like gold accents inside the black, but he's still Roland. Sorry, stretching my neck, chat. Yes, both of the squads have.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay. I brought up Captain Roland.
To kind of roll back on Oliver. Oliver, just crazy flexibility for the archetype was great shit.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the Roland Synchro, right?
Yes, Synchro Roland, yeah.
Let me pull them up. It's been a while since I've looked at some of these guys.
Yeah.
Are we talking about his effect or just his design?
No, I just pulled them up, so we're talking about his design,
Oh yeah, no, this
Roland.
I think this works. Like definitely going extra, but I
Yeah.
don't think you've. I don't think we've gone like too far beyond like too much. It's silly.
Yeah,
He's
I
looking
mentioned
good.
before when you were still away that like we're getting close to the too many spikes category, but not quite there.
I think, like, ironically, the main thing helping him is that his flame sword is obfuscating majority of his like torso.
Yeah.
So we're we're not getting overloaded with the spike design.
Yeah.
And the stuff we're seeing makes sense. Like, you know, like he's got the cod piece. He's got the padding around his legs.
I think it avoids the
obviously it's
problem we
not super
always have
practical.
with Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have spikes, where like there's no spikes or.
Yeah.
I mean, his knees are a little pointy, but like there's not like giant front spikes that mean he can't like kneel down, you know, or weird backward-facing spikes that mean he can't like bend his legs or he stabs himself. Like this.
It's segmented in a way that like you can look in your head and it makes enough sense that
Yeah.
that your brain doesn't put it all out.
Like this should be cosplayable theoretically. It'd be annoying because there's a lot of like edges and stuff, but like hypothetically, you could make this costume in real life and wear it and probably be able to walk around. If you actually wielded a sword that spat fire, you'd probably be a little hot in there, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, like the Durandal gets more extra, like the color palette more like matches his hair color. Funny enough, like.
And you can actually there's actually like a handle, you know, a hilt and a crossguard to it, but the blade is made of fire. There's like we said, there's extra details, but it's still looking pretty good. So yeah, he's chilling. Also, hey, guess what? No more piss aura. He's also got kind of the you know, cool blue aura.
Yeah, because like it's weird because I think Roland's base design would look really fine if he didn't have the yellow aura. Because like I mentioned this before, but like the main thing I think that hurt his base design with the piss aura is that his hair has this, I mean, admittedly weird like two-tone where it's yellow all on the outskirts and red on the inside.
Yeah.
And you know, that's anime hair color, like it doesn't have to make sense, it just has to look cool. But the yellow aura surrounding the yellow, like the yellow border of his hair just stood out in a very negative sense to my brain.
Yeah.
Going for this more white-blue that the last few cards have had does not feel as aggressive. It feels like just a normal Yu-Gi-Oh monster aura to kind of let it stand out from the background.
Yeah. No, it works out well.
And this is our 5 synchro, correct?
Yes. And also a 5 synchro tuner. So this is a fire warrior.
Oh boy,
level 5.
surely we can't make like a Crimson Dragon with that or something, right?
No.
That's surely.
Oh,
that's
and
not a
also,
problem.
again, because this was
Quasar?
2020, surely we can't set up a way to summon this guy off Hulk.
Surely not. Heavens no.
And by the way, you know, again, talking about, because this deck was competitive, they were playing real shit. Like, there are a lot of level 1s. You can play 1-for-1 in here, you know. Obviously, Isolde is a great way to make this deck work, but also it has the Hulk line as well. You know, there's a decent spread of cards you can run in here. And cards we talked in our previous stream about Fire Warrior a couple weeks ago, like Sublimation Knight and Squeak Knight work, you know. There are a few other cards. There actually are some Noble Knights you could mix in here. Another card that, you know, talking about, like, she's not searchable, but, you know, more... Actually, I think she is. Is she Enchantress of Noble? So I'm trying to remember what Morgan is. I think she's of Noble Arms? No, it's Enchantress of Avalon, yeah. So, like, just Merlin. Morgan isn't searchable, but Morgan is a hand trap, which is just if you control a Noble Knight monster and a Noble Arms spell, you can destroy a Noble Arms you control to negate an activation.
Morgan was the kind of like retrained Merlin of sorts, right? Kind of sort of.
Yeah, she's a dark spellcaster, is clearly meant to support, but is like still different. But yeah, her effect is when your opponent activates a card or effect, discard her from your hand, destroy a Noble Arms you control, which is usually a plus in most of these decks. Negate and destroy that card. So like, you could run her as just an extra hand trap that's on theme, you know, shit like that. So there's a few
I mean,
different
yeah,
cards
like-
you can mix into this.
Like I mean, yeah, like Morgan is a pretty Morgan definitely falls into that an archetype hand trap that I feel, depending on the deck, can definitely have a great impact.
Yeah.
Like even more so than a Veiler or an Ash Blossom, because she's full generic card effect.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. It's similar to like playing regular Fiendus in Subterror. Like that's just you know, if your opponent activates an effect, kind of a thing you can negate and destroy, but you have to be able to discard her and, you know, I think you have to control a Subterror. You can flip face down to do it, but you're controlling Subterror, so like that's fine. You want to do that. And Morgan's kind of the same way, where she's a negate, and also hypothetically, most of your noble arms do something when they're destroyed anyway. So you want to do that, and so she just pluses.
Well, even it's like noble honor, noble arms. So like majority of the monsters you are ideally meant to be popping will plus off the bonus. So it's a negate that technically goes that goes -1 like on principle, or well yeah
because you're still losing Morgan in hand, but
it's going to go -1 -2 on principle, but you're going to get pluses off the cards getting destroyed.
So I also forgot to say roll stats. He's 2,000 attack, 500 defense. I'm pretty sure they're setting up that you're supposed to synchro this with Oliver and regular Roland, but you can do a couple different combos. But the stats kind of work out that way. First, by the way, completely generic. By the way, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters. So, at any case where you can sync a 5, this works. But if this card is synchro summoned, you can activate this effect during the end phase. Send an equip spell from your deck to your hand, then add a warrior from your deck to your hand. Sorry, send a equip spell from your deck to the graveyard, and then add a warrior. During the main phase, if this card's in your graveyard, quick effect, target a warrior you control, equip this card as an equip spell that gives it 500 attack. You can use each effect once per turn. Considering that this is a synchro tuner, this is clearly meant as an extender. Like, this is good.
The problem of a lot of these Infernoble cards is just the way they interact with cards like this. I've never played Infernoble, so I can't say for sure, but equipping like another Infernoble card that just has that base effect will proc in tandem, right? It doesn't have to be like equipped through the Infernoble card's effect, right?
Yes. No. There is synergy with just having guys be equipped.
Yeah. It's one of those weird nonsenses of ancillary Yu-Gi-Oh rulings that I just had to learn at one point, because years back I am technically still a qualified judge, but obviously I haven't played like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh in years.
Yeah.
But I still have all
Roland
that.
is a funny little extender
shoved in my brain.
And he's an extender because the deck did get a boss monster, which is the one you would expect. And that became Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles. So actually, like, setting up a play for Charlemagne. It's a roughly correct pronunciation, but I do like that the OCG of this is Sharuru. Sharuru. But yeah, so we set up Big Charlie.
Oh, I love the purple accent. That's a good.
Yeah, they picked a good accent color for him. So like kind of a royal purple in his hair. Good. He's got his sword. He's got a magic rock that shoots fire, I guess.
Like rock / wisps of nonsense.
Yeah. We are back to a yellow aura, but I think because there's not really a yellow in his character design anywhere else, it doesn't clash as much. Like, yeah, he's kind of generically blonde-haired, but it's a darker blonde, and I'm not even sure exactly what color I would call these like accents on his coat. Like, it's almost more of a bronze color.
Yeah, like it's definitely in that yellow shade, but the texturing makes it feel more bronze brassy than like gold yellow.
So like it doesn't detract as much, and obviously the color scheme of like, again, mostly black with a little bit of red and the bronze trimming is good. And there's, like, interestingly enough, almost no white accent color here. And he's got kind of a cool thing with, like, I don't think it's actually asymmetric, but it kind of looks like his cloak is just thrown over one shoulder. And it might be. You can't see it through the pauldron on the other side. So, like, he's doing stuff. He's got the joyous in hand.
Yeah, I think it's less cape and more cloak because you definitely don't see it on the other side of his armor. So I think
it's almost like just an accent scarf because he's wearing a long coat.
Yeah.
But he's out here big chillin'. So Emperor Charles is a level 9 fire synchro warrior.
So 5 and 4.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Pretty easy to do with this deck. And honestly, I still to this day don't think there's a lot of really good like generic 9 synchros.
Yeah, like off the top of my head, I'm like just like Cloud Castle.
Yeah, that's the
I'm
one
sure
I was
there
thinking
are,
of.
like-
there probably are more. I mean, there's the 2 dragon mechs. I believe Navy and Vermilion are both 9s.
Yeah. I'm.
And to be
Well,
fair,
you
Vermilion
yap, I
Dragon
will
mech is a
pull-
fire at least.
Yeah. Well,
Actually,
while you
also, I
yap,
should
will
say
pull
that.
up both of them.
I want to point this out. In Archetype, so far, none of these cards have actually locked you. There's no Archetype locks.
Oh, hey, that's a good one, Shen Shen.
Shen
Xiao
That would have been like right around the time this deck came out.
Oh.
VW was like right after Infernoble, a couple of sets.
Biggest defender, Trish.
True, though that does require at least 3 mats.
We get like Ravenous Croco Dragon, Archithus. Yeah, I mean like there are a lot of like solid level 9s in the bunch.
There
but
definitely are a lot of oddball like tech options. Like I would probably not be making Arco Dragon in this deck.
Yeah, like Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss is a funny little guy.
That's true. That's funny.
Another funny little dude.
But yes, Charles is generic. He's 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuners. He's got 3,000 attack, 200 defense, so this guy's rekindleable. There's like 2 guys you can rekindle in this archetype, and one of them is their boss. That's very funny.
Yeah.
The reason I think why Night Roland is a quick effect is, as you said, talking a little about their effects. Charles's first effect is if an equipped card becomes equipped to a monster on the field, even during the damage step, you can destroy 1 card in the field. So
Pop that guy in the Stellan Trap Zone and kill a guy.
Yeah, just at any time there is a equipped card becomes equipped, which obviously I don't necessarily know why they capitalize equip card, because the way Yu-Gi-Oh works, anything that says it equips to something, it instantly becomes an equipped card. That's just anything that is equipped is an equipped card.
I think it just comes down to just syntaxing.
So like that means that any sort of equip effect procs this. Both the Rolands I think are quick effects. I believe Roland's in-hand effect to equip is quick as well. So like you've got synergy there.
Yeah, quick effect. Target a warrior monster you control. Equip this card to that monster you control as an equipped spell.
Yeah. During the end phase, you can equip 1 equip spell from your hand or graveyard to this card, then equip 1 Fire Warrior from your deck to this card as an equip spell that gives us 500 attack, which means you can each effect once per turn. By the way, because this says hand or graveyard, this is how you loop for 4. So let me get ready to pull up Smoke Grenade, because that's our last effect there. But overall, like in Archetype, Charles is pretty good because he's a once per turn quick effect. And let me actually make sure. Is that actually once per turn? I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, each effect is once per turn. Yeah, it's the last line of text. So, once per turn, he's a free pop, and during the end phase, even on turn 1, he sets up mats because he fishes a Fire Warrior monster. And remember, half your Fire Warriors are like can't be destroyed by battle, can't be destroyed by card effect, can't be targeted by card effects. And a card engraved. The unfortunate problem is, why this turned into a hand rip archetype, is there is an old-ass Yu-Gi-Oh card. Let me check the date this card was printed. Ah, yes! The Legacy of Darkness, the year 2003.
Yeah, so old you can smell the early 2000s card design on this guy.
And you can see it in the art, too. Look at this guy. Look at this weird little goblin. Like, he's got that classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Goblin-type look, but also his feet are weird elephant legs.
He's got the old school, like Japanese visual notation of little, like, handkerchief, like, tied on the head under the nose for, just the quick visual notation that this guy's a thief.
Yeah.
It's got a little knapsack full of various gold knickknacks.
So, also, by the way, I love the trivia page for this phrasing. This card has the longest gap between the dates it was released and the dates it became forbidden in the OCG and the TCG. It was forbidden nearly 21 years and 11 months after its release in the OCG, and was forbidden 17 years and 6 months after its release in the TCG. So this is an old-ass card that was perfectly fine for a long time, except, guess what? This card reads, when this card is destroyed by a card effect while equipped to a monster, look at your opponent's hand, discard 1. So, this is not once per turn. So, because of this way this works, if you can set it up where you can, for reasons, destroy it with multiple card effects, it is basically Forceful Sentry. Or, actually, no, it's Confiscation is the look discard one. Yeah.
Yes.
Not as popular as Forceful Sentry, but yes.
Forceful Sentry is
Shuffle
look
back.
and shuffle one.
Yeah, Confiscation is the look and discard. Both are bad, but I feel like Forceful was, like, more popular because the shuffle back is, like, real mean.
Doesn't Confi have a payment
Yeah,
cost?
Confi is you have to pay, I think, 500, maybe 1,000.
I think it's 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Both
it's
are still,
1,000.
like I said, both are still banned.
Yeah.
Smoke Grenade has no cost, so, and again, not once per turn. So if you can contrive a way to destroy this multiple times during your turn and recycle it, which, by the way, again, several of your cards in this deck have the ability to add back just equip spells, shuffle back equip spells, and obviously, like I said, in the end phase, like, no matter what, if you just send this off Isold and then you get to Charlemagne and in your end phase you equip it to Charles and Charles immediately pops it, this means that you've done your whole combo and you get to rip one from your opponent. You loop this a couple times, rip 2, rip 3, you know.
Yeah, Infernoble Hand Rip was, I mean, you can see it's a problem by the fact that Smoke Grenade had to get banned pretty quickly.
Yeah. And, like, again, the deck was fine, but the way that Charlemagne works is, like I said, is the end phase. He equips an equip spell from your hand or graveyard, and then his effect is, if an equip spell becomes equipped, he can pop, and it's any card on the field. So, you pop Smoke Grenade, and like I said, so no matter what, if you can get Smoke Grenade into rotation, which, again, isn't hard, there it is. You've done it. So,
it will forever be amusing to me the level of jank players will stoop to for Hand Rip. And Smoke Grenade of the Thief is, I would say, it's either Smoke Grenade of the Thief or Ghost Kraken, I would say, is one of the funniest little guys in Yu-Gi-Oh! to call, like, Hand Rip FCKs. The Ghost Kraken one, like, is thankfully not as much of a problem. Even though I think majority of the combo is still legal, it's just that it's a 50-minute combo that no one wants to do.
Yeah, you can loop forever to make Gust Kraken an FTK and literally shuffle back your opponent's entire hand because none of them are once per turns. It's just the kind of thing where, like, people labbed it, they played it, you sometimes see it at, like, events, but mostly you just go, man, this shit ain't worth it. Like, it is not worth the extra effort.
Yeah, like, the brain power to execute the Ghost Kraken FTK game after game after game in a, like, regional, your brain will be fried by, like, round 2.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. All right, so let's talk about a few Infernoble Arms, because technically they are next. It's funny, this deck mostly got released in, like, feature complete in, Rise of the Duelist? It was Rise or Return. I don't remember which of the Duelist it was, but the 2020 of the Duelist set. And they got a little bit of support in Phantom Rage, the follow-up set. That's where they got Synchro Olivier, who we'll look at in a second. Also, that set had just some generic good stuff in there. That was where they first printed Link Hita Ablaze. Another great card to play in this deck of just fires. You know, what do you do when your opponent debarriers you off Synchros and Infernoble? I don't know, Hita pass? Come at me, Scrublord. I'm ripped. I'll get you next time. So there's a few of those, but again, the bulk was printed earlier. So we're going to pull up some of these Infernoble arms. First, another card you've probably seen a lot because it's painfully generic. Durandal. Also, by the way, I should point out funny quality about.
I'm sorry it took so long. I had to like wait for my fingers to like unfreeze.
I know. Hey, listen, you said you had to go outside to get your mail. I understood. We talked about a couple of the synchros, and including regular Charles, and talked about how that's a hand rip loop. Let's talk about the equip spells. So these are very. There's something funny about the way these are handled. And I need to double check. Are the regular noble arms this way? I don't think they are. But all the Infernoble arms have quotation marks around them.
I think the noble arms explicitly are like. Let me find one.
Yes, no, they do not have the quotation marks.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going for is these guys have quotations because they're supposed to be museum pieces.
Yeah, because another one of the support cards is like a curator
we'll
or like someone doing an article on them.
I think the idea. I think the idea is playing into the noble arms that we see in the equip cards are just the actual swords and the stones and various things, whereas the Infernoble arms seem to be more, like I said, like museum pieces evoking the designs of the swords, because everyone but Synchro Roland, their entire sword is fire. So I think,
and even Synchro Roland's Durandal doesn't have a blade; it's just fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these are like you said, they are. I think these are the captions on the museum piece. And if you don't know, like I said, this is a thing that I've noticed. MBT finds this really funny. I don't know why it's not that funny, but it's a little funny.
That's because it's a contrarian.
The Louvre, the French museum, like French National Museum, does claim to have Joyeuse. They probably don't, because the designs don't match up with the correct centuries of swords. But they have a really fancy sword that is labeled Joyeuse, and so they've said, "Hey, this is Joyeuse. This is Charles the Great's sword."
I mean, okay, here's the weird thing about
Do they have Durandal as well?
No, because according to legend, Roland shoved Durandal into a mountain. Which, honestly, by the way, France does have a mountain they claim that Durandal is shoved in. Yes, go ahead.
Honestly, for the Joyeuse thing, how long ago was Charles Karl the Gross around? Father of Europe?
I want to say 10th century, but let me double check. Oh no, I'm way too late. 700s.
Considering how like things up to like even the Neapolitan era, and past that too, people made recreations of supposed legendary items within a century after it happened. So it could also just be a recreation of the object that is just that fucking old.
Well, that's the thing though, is the I'm pretty sure the blade they have in the museum isn't that old.
It's also like the Louvre claims to have Joyeuse. It would be like what a British Natural History Museum saying, "We have Excalibur, we have that."
Well, they're still trying to find like proof of that, and it's been rough.
So there is a coronation sword that did appear as early as 1270. But like I said, let me see. Yeah, it's a composite of various parts. So, the blade itself is from the 10th century, which would be the 900s, I believe. Again, Charlemagne was late 700s to early 800s, so it could be a replica of something earlier. All the bits have been assembled over the years, like the pommels from like the 10th or 11th, the crossguard and the scabbard are like from different centuries. But they call it Joyeuse because it was used in coronations from around the 1200s until like Charles X, as like an actual, like I said, like a coronation. So ceremonially, it's been that way, but it's probably not the historical one. But yeah, Durandal, though, is like almost assuredly mostly mythical. Though you never know; it could be shoved in that wall. I think there were some worries that somebody like carved it out and nicked it the other time. I do believe that, speaking of Britain, they do have a coronation blade that's supposed to be the Cortana, but again, that's like probably somebody read a book somewhere and was like, "Oh yeah, we're supposed to have that." We've got a sword that remotely resembles that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the problem. I mean, if you've ever played a game along the lines of Crusader Kings and the like, in taking place in that era, they even have fun with it. Where even in those games, you find replicas and fakes of famous swords of like, oh, this is Excalibur and shit like that.
Well,
Yeah,
and the
'cause,
funny thing
make all
about
this all the time.
the funny thing about I want to say the French swords is because they were later and like much more in the post-Christianization phase. Most of them are also relics of saints, which is another very common thing to fake. Like I believe the Durandal is supposed to have like a couple of teeth or finger bones from a saint worked into the hilt. Joyous is supposed to have a piece of the Lance of Longinus in its hilt. Once again, no word on if the copy from the Louvre has that. But yeah, they've got some things going on. I do also want to say about this design, if you think this looks familiar, not only is this handle what Roland is wielding in Knight Roland, but also a lot of the designs for Infernoble arms are the silhouettes we saw in the Gearbreed card of that like tech tree of weapons. So
that's fun.
They kind of remember that cute nod. So Durandal is a card you've probably read before because it is, again, one of the most painfully generic cards for Fire Warrior ever.
It's somehow equip spell that says Rhoda on it. I don't understand how they printed this card.
Yeah, so Durandal says, while this card is equipped to a monster, by the way, no restrictions on equipping it. You can equip this to anybody, literally even to your opponent's monsters. You can add one level 5 or lower Fire Warrior from your deck to your hand, then destroy this card. If this card's sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster sent to the graveyard, target a level 4 or lower Fire Warrior in your graveyard, special summon it. You can't special summon except warrior monsters. You can only use one effect per turn only once that turn. So Durandal does have a type lock to warriors, but only on the off chance that your opponent somehow pops the monster it's equipped to before you activate its other effect. Its primary effect is just pop itself at a Fire Warrior. Level 5 or lower, by the way, is your whole-ass archetype and most of the generic support card archetypes as well. So, yeah. Durandal, baby.
I just keep thinking of the fucking Red Muffler Man video where it's just he does the fucking Jeff Leonard combo. But it's the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh characters. Where it fucking opens with this card and Renauld.
That's just your whole ass combo right there. All right. Our next one that we got as well is Hauteclair. As I said, it's the twin
These
swords.
are the dual swords of Olivier.
Yeah. This one also shows the like weird shadow people in the museum. Like we've got these kind of like. I feel like I'm playing a like walking simulator mystery video game where like somebody stole one of these swords. So there's like holograms of the people in here.
What you're doing, you're doing the second dungeon in Persona 5.
Also true. There are some weird shadow people in there. But yeah, so Hauteclair again, it's the twin swords. They look good. They're complementary. They're good looking swords.
We somehow took twin swords, Trice and Butterfly Dagger Elma, and they had a baby. They look good though.
Yeah.
I like it.
So Hauteclair says, while this card's equipped to a monster, target a face-up monster you control this turn. You can't declare attacks except for that monster, but it can make a second attack each battle phase, then destroy this card. So it really is Twin Swords of Flashing Light. But better. If this card's sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster is sent to the graveyard, target a face-up monster on the field, destroy it. You can only use one effect per turn and only once that turn. So, Hauteclair's first effect is not as cool as Durandal, but its second effect as a way to punish your opponent for popping, I don't know, your Emperor Charles or something, fairly decent. Pop a face-up monster can
Yeah, I mean,
be a
like
way to get out of stuff.
Hot Slayer is it's definitely not one you prioritize, but hey, if it's what you've got, you can throw it out there, and it's the equivalent of setting a landmine, of looking at your opponent and setting a landmine on the board. Like, they know it's there. Are they gonna deal with it? They don't know.
Yeah. And then bringing up the last of the original 3 from Rise of the Duelist, and it is Rise. Joyce.
Joyce.
Sorry, I just looked at the way they transliterated this into Japanese.
Jowa
Yuzu. Close, but still, like, wow. A for effort, I guess.
I can't believe they made a Peach Blade.
But this is definitely a reference to the Louvre. Like, if you go to Wikipedia and, like, type in Joyusei, they have a picture from, like, 2012 of that sword in a case standing vertical, a lot like this, like, very similar background. Once again, the real-life Joyusei is way less fancy than this, which is funny because according to the Song of Roland, Joyusei is supposed to, like, shine with all 7 colors of the rainbow when drawn or some shit. I love that this has the fucking anime-ass sparkles inside the glass case, though. That's great.
You can almost hear the silhouettes going, ooh,
yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So, Joyous is basically, I feel like, the other side of Durandal. You know, Durandal searches from deck. Joyusei says, if this card's equipped to a monster, target a fire warrior in your graveyard, add it to your hand, then destroy this card. So this is just recover from graveyard. And if this card's sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster is sent to the graveyard, special summon 1 fire warrior from your hand. You can only use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn, but still, just free special if your card is sent. And as chat mentioned, it does say remember if because the equipped monster is sent to the graveyard. So not only does that punish your opponent, it also means if you happen to equip any of these to, say, Roland, Captain Roland, or any of your other guys for purposes of then synchroing them, you can get these effects. So, like, Joyusei is a great card to extend for your synchro plays because you tack it on one of your synchro materials and then you just summon an extra guy out of your hand. So they all flow together pretty well. But other than Durandal's search effect, I feel like Hot Claire and Joyusei are not as hot to trot, as it were.
Yeah. Durandal is definitely the mainstay you see in decks. Even, I mean, I would say even to this day, if they're playing monsters they can search, and it's your extra copies of Rhoda, essentially.
Yeah. Like if you're playing Fire Warrior, it's just a good card to have because of the way it works. We did also have a trap card in this deck, though we don't have like archetypal counter traps and shit. They realized we don't play that way no more. But they do have this Horn of Oliphant, which is unfortunately unsearchable.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty interesting. It shows Roland with the full Durandal, not flaming, but he's blowing on the Horn of Oliphant, blowing so hard it's gonna crack.
Yeah. So I guess this I'm not. It's been a while since I've seen the arts. I guess this does imply that, like, in battle, their swords just catch fire or some nonsense.
Yeah.
Or they turn into fire when they activate them or something.
Who knows? But they do have a couple of different looks. Also, if you've read the Song of Roland, in that work, Roland does blow the horn so loud that, like, his skull explodes. So yeah. It's not a great time, but it's, you know, they're trying to talk about how rad it is. This is a normal trap that says activate one of these effects. Either banish an equipped spell you control or in your graveyard, then you can destroy one card on the field. Note this does not target. Or destroy a Roland monster you control, special summon in defense position up to 3 Fire Warriors from your deck whose total levels equal 9, but their effects are negated. And until the next turn after this effect resolves, the end of the next turn after this effect resolves, you can't special summon active warriors. You can only activate 1 per turn.
So this basically just says, hey, summon Charlemagne, dumbass.
Yeah, so this is either, like, if somehow your opponent, like, cocked block you out of setting up to Roland, and you could set up Oliphant. You can tribute a Roland to summon 9 guys, to make a 9 to make Roland. They did have to make sure to Warrior Lock because summon 3 Fire Warriors whose total levels are 9 is Trish. Otherwise, so they made sure to Warrior Lock you.
Is Trish anything in between realistically?
Yeah. But still, it's a great way to fetch out 3 guys. But honestly, if you are actually running this in Infernoble, the effect you're going to use is the Banish 1 equip you controller in your graveyard to non-targeting pop 1, which is mean. Unfortunately, this card is non-searchable, so you probably don't run it, but it's very funny.
Well, it technically is searchable.
That's true. They later made it searchable, but when it was first printed, this card was not popular in the original Infernoble runs because it was not searchable.
They made it searchable through a very funny way, too.
Yeah, we'll talk about, like I said, they remembered this deck like 3 years later when they started doing Year of Fire for Dama. The Year of Fire that lasted like 3 years. But first we have Infernoble Knight Captain Oliver. Because Oliver got a synchro. As our big shiny follow-up.
Yeah. We have improved Oliver by not making his face have weird shading. Well, yeah, it's still a little weird shading.
But he's underlit, which is better. Also, not doing anything with the teeth. And his armor's looking good. He's still doing that kind of like yellow to orange to red thing, but it still works. You can't actually see the blades of his swords. They're on fire.
He's also got like a Diabell Star eye wiggle eye thing.
Yeah, he's got a very anime eye guard thing. So
I guess Diabell Star stole Captain Oliver's flow.
I mean, that was more just like a side thing. That's not like a whole whatever. I guess.
There's a little bit more to Diabell's mask thing, but it's hard to see because she's got a hood up. So mostly you just see the eyeball thing. But yeah, Olivier is their other level 5. This one is not a tuna. So this is their
same
level
stats
5.
as the Roland Synchro?
Yes. Yeah, 2k 500. He's completely generic. He's just not a synchro tuner. When this card declares an attack while equipped, target a face-up card on the field, destroy it. So just extra pop when attacking. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 warrior monster you control, special summon this card from your graveyard as a tuner, equip that monster you control as an equip card that gives it 500 attack. You can use this effect once per turn. So he does not start as a synchro tuner, but has the ability to recover himself as a synchro tuner later.
Yeah, the whole game plan of this archetype is really just summon Charlemagne. I mean, obviously, it's so flexible you can do far more than that, but the base intent designed into the cards is we're getting you to Charlemagne by any means necessary.
Yes. And obviously, I think Oliver has, like, I feel like this is kind of the card that maybe you want to summon, like, if you're going second and your opponent has a board, you, like, make this guy so you can equip something and attack and pop and maybe, like, clear out some cards before you try to go to Charlemagne because you know your opponent's going to try and stop you. But even so, it's, you know, just giving you extra pops. And also, honestly, like, sometimes you just have the God Hand. This is a deck where, like, obviously you can probably make Charlemagne, but, like, not counting the fact that under normal circumstances you're playing a lot of, like, Link 2s to bridge into stuff, you probably have enough gas left over if you didn't do a Link 2 play to also make a second Synchro. So Oliver can help your Charlemagne, you know, get over by giving you yet another pop. So, like, this is a deck that is, I think... Oh, I'm trying to... Is this what we would call mid-range, I guess? Because, like, it's not quite a control deck, at least by default. Obviously, the way Smoke Grenade makes it work is it's a quote-unquote control deck because you get to look at your opponent's hand and rip a couple cards out of there. But, like, this is a deck that is not pure OTK, even though it has guys with lots of attack modulation. There's lots of, you know, increase your attack by 500 effects. And it's got a lot of pops. but it's also very flexible. Like, there's a lot of different stuff you can do in this deck. It's got a lot of reactivity, so it's not, it doesn't feel like a classic control deck, but it's not just, like, yes, you want to make Charlemagne, but it's not just make Charlemagne, make him huge, attack over. It's probably like, make Charlemagne, pop some cards, make him huge, attack.
Yeah, like, what made Infernoble so strong within its format was that it was just this very powerful, versatile mid-range deck that was able to do a bit of everything. And normally those kinds of decks fall into a dearth of like tier 2 rogue-ish.
Yeah.
But Infernoble just sort of circumvented that just by sheer power of all its various cards, able to just consistently it consistently forced you to have answers.
Yeah. Because it's one of those decks where, like we said, because it's one of the first examples of a really good modern grind game deck. There are several grind game decks that have come out since 2020, but I think Infernoble's one of the first ones of just like, it's the deck that is sticky. Yeah, you can eat your whole opponent's board, but if you don't OTK them after, it's entirely possible they can just rebuild their board and come at you again. Like, it wins in the long term. There are several decks that are like that. Labyrinth's a good example. That is a deck that is awful to face in the grind game. Like, there are lots of decks that don't build big boards of, like, 5 negates. They just build, a couple of really annoying guys to get rid of, and then if you don't turn off your opponent's whole ass deck, they're just like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna keep rebuilding Charlemagne every turn. That's all my deck does, is rebuild Charlie. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, and even to an extent, shit like, Barome was out around this time, so, and
yeah,
sure,
Barome was a little later, but yeah.
Yeah, it was in this era, and like, yeah, sure, the deck's designed to go into a 9, but you have we
also have level 1 tuners
and level modulation that getting to a 10 is by no means difficult in this deck.
No. Especially when later they straight up added a straight up level 1 tuner. Because, like I said, Konami forgot this deck existed for a couple of years, and then out of the blue remembered, presumably because, so the card I'm about to show is, it's going to be Courageous Crimson Chevalier Bradamante.
She is an Infernoble, despite her name.
Yeah, she has the parenthetical. I love parentheticals, by the way. That's one of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Design elements that I know they kind of invented to, like, backport shit like Axe of Despair and Summon Skull, but I love when cards can just say in parenthetical. By the way, this is always an archetype card, because it lets them get, like, funny names or even hybrid archetypes without necessarily fucking up the naming.
There are certain cards I think they should have done it more. They should actually do it more with, but they don't.
They probably should have done a few more erratas, but we're still here. Spygal Misty could use that, by the way. This card is always treated as a spiral monster.
They could errata that card, and it really would not have any impact on the spiral archetype. It would just be a quality of life thing that was just overlooked when making Misty.
But Bradamante was released in early 2023 as a OCG Structures manga promo, because presumably the Structures manga played the Warrior Strike or Warrior Strike Redux in it, because it's about the structure decks.
I did not get that far into the Structures anime or the Structures manga, but I would not be surprised.
So they added her as a promo.
It's still so funny to me. The Structures manga, like, first big archetype the guy builds is Tenyi.
Yeah, no, it's a very funny one. But so, they added her as a promo, and then this got released to the TCG in Battles of Legend Monstrous Revenge, which is the Battles of Legend pack is usually where we scoop up all those weird side sets. Like, that's where, like, I think the Animation Chronicles all got lumped and a couple of other weird stuff. But they did actually produce her in there, and so this is Bradamante's design in Yu-Gi-Oh!
This is an interesting one where this definitely feels like too much happening, but I just like how it all feels.
It just feels like a thing that, like, I keep saying this. This looks like it would look better as a 3D model.
A little bit. I'm not
with the fire effects because it's like if you take all the fire because if you take the weapon away, the fire effects go away really because it's all from just the weapon.
Yeah, she's summoning a big lance.
I also really want to see Rogerio.
Yeah,
if they actually get the melanin or not either.
But
too.
I like.
Okay.
I do like her color scheme is like it's mostly warm colors. Like her primary colors are kind of like orange red and kind of golden yellow, but she's got that purple in there. Like it's real good. I think you are right that on paper this should be too busy. She's got like knee-high boots that are also frilly stockings. No, she's got like 2 sets of knee-high socks. That's what she's got. Or does she have frills on knee pads? I don't even know what those are. That's how confused I am. But like it's good though because she's wearing like a big, floofy battle knight dress. She's got like a bustle and a ribbon at her back. She's got the little spiky hair clips. She's got twin tails.
I honestly think, I think what makes it work is just the way that the Infernoble design, like every base Infernoble character kind of just is extra in their base design. Look at the very first card, Roland. Like in what world should a knight just in a suit,
in a white suit and tie.
Yeah. Like not a suit of armor, a formal wear suit should not work, but it just kind of has that good vibes. And we have Bradamante, who, while
she looks like an armored version of a gala dress.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's chilling. Okay, so Bradamante is always treated as an Infernoble Knight. She is a level 1 Fire Warrior Chuna with 500 attack and 200 defense. So they
special stat.
They turboed out the stats for this. A level 1 tuner, a Fire Warrior. She's got the 200 for rekindling. She's level 1, so she's 1 for oneable. Oh, and eventually, searchable off Snake Eye shit, original sinful spoils, and so on. So first of all, her effect is you can discard this card, target a warrior you control, equip it with an equip spell from your deck that you can't equip to it. Just discard equip from deck. Fuck you, Ash Blossom.
Grab that Durandal, baby.
When this card not equipped with an equip card is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it, equip that opponent's monster to this card. Just if your opponent's dumb enough to run her over while she doesn't have an equip card equipped to her, which will be probably most of the time, she's a relinquished. Also, it works on the crash. You can just run her into opponent's monsters to relinquish them. You can only use each effect once per turn. Bradamante I don't think was enough to bring this deck back, but probably is your premier level 1 tuner to play in this archetype now, because she's a discard to just equip from deck, and like I said, if you're going second, like, if you're not going to die if you go to battle phase, you just get to steal your opponent's monsters? Like, just
you get to... You get to snatch an opponent's monster, swing in for battle, and ideally main phase 2, sink Bradamante off with just something else on your board to ideally make a Charles, or, definitely by this point, turn that Charles into a Barone.
Yeah. Or any other number of weird things. Like, it's not ideal. Obviously, like, the crash effect, you're going to take a lot of damage. She's only got 500 attack. But it's still a case where, like, you can set this up to do a lot of very funny things. And then also, actually, in a later set, like I said, in Duelist Nexus, we got a few more sets down there. We remembered this archetype in full and added some new cards. The first card added is their other, new tuner, which I think is fair. They have a lot of, like, flexible tuners, but they're like, man, we just need some level 1 tuners in here. It's Ricardetto.
Oh, there is an I in there. Yeah.
Yes. Though his name is, this is one of Renaud's brothers, which I believe is usually given as, like, either Richard or the French version of Richard. But the Italian is Ricardetto.
I'm seeing that both Bradamante and this guy, my brain just blanked on how to the pronunciation again.
I wanted to ask something earlier, but you guys kept talking, so I couldn't think of a place to interject. Sorry.
What bit? About what? About whom?
What do you guys think Gregario's card would be?
No idea.
I mean, yeah, I don't
Probably
know,
a
man.
level
Like,
4 just to play off of Bradamante, but like we haven't finished reading out all these cards in the archetype, so I don't actually know where their bits are missing.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah,
thinking
like,
Gregario would have to be something that Bradamante could pull or whatnot.
So Ricciardetto. Literally, I think the French is Richardette.
we have both Bradamante and Ricciardetto with more of a purple accent to kind of play into
Yeah.
the I guess the upper royalty, like Charlemagne.
Yes. And also, again, we're doing this one's much more of a dark color scheme. Like he's got kind of a dark red, and then a black undercoating. Whereas Bradamante
His
was
power
like
up
all
to like the
colors.
super move.
He is doing
Or
something
not-
with his sword right now, shooting some fire. It's looking cool. He's got a little bit of the yellow piss aura, but I think because there's just so much fire behind him, you can't even hardly notice most of the time.
Yeah, like the aura kind of like blends from yellow to more of a white, depending on the part of the
Yeah.
depending on the part of the body you're looking at too.
Yeah.
So it can't just be funny little color perspectiveness.
So Ricciardetto is another level 1 warrior tuner. He's got 500 attack, but 0 defense, not the magical number. But he says you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard, special summon 1 level 4 or lower fire warrior from your hand as a tuner. So just level fix yourself. Just any fire warrior becomes a tuner. If this card is normal or special, giving them a second normal, or just in general on summon, you can target 1 level 4 or lower fire warrior in your graveyard except Ricciardetto. Special summon it. You can't special summon the rest of this turn except warriors. Konami has realized at this point that they have to lock this deck down. So Ricciardetto has a warrior lock, but still, you can only use 1 effect per turn, only once that turn. But still, this guy is just, again, they're like, you're gonna synchro summon. We're gonna sync 5. You're gonna synchro 5. You can't be stopped. You're synchroing 5. Just put some guys in graveyard. Normal summon this guy. What's the matter? Don't want to normal summon this guy? Fuck it. Banish him from your hand. Special summon a 4 or lower. They're a tuner. Like, we're just getting all over the place of, like, high-speed, low-drag summoning. Now, our next guy has a I want to say funny art for a lot of reasons. Not like funny haha.
We're doing Turpin,
Yes.
last one.
Infernoble Knight Turpin, our last main deck monster. Turpin being a historical archbishop in the Song of Roland.
Now Omega. You could even say that nobody expects this man.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of that going on. But I think the part they're not going to expect is he's got a katana, and also he's got one of those Buddhist ring stabs with the little rings that's on fire.
Karaka, I believe,
Yeah.
is the name of it.
Like, he's still wearing what I would say is a pretty Western, like, clerical outfit. Like, he's got an appropriate sort of hat for, like, a bishop or archbishop. He's got kind of a mantled cloak.
He's a bishop, not the pope.
Yes, yeah.
That's right.
He's a high-level bishop. He's got a little mantle. He's got some stuff. But his weaponry is very Eastern, which is very funny. He's also wearing little tiny spectacles down there.
Kakara is the name of the staff, not Karaka.
Yes. So, he's got a very, very interesting look. I like it, but it is still amusing to me.
Yeah, so like Omega said a bit earlier in the stream, if you missed it, the reason his sword's a katana is funny little crossover of the way the sword that Turpin is wielding, similar to the is it Murasame or Muramasa? Murasame is the sword, correct?
Yeah, the sword that's supposed to be like scatter raindrops when it's drawn. They like was like, the Bishop Turpin wielded a ice blade.
Is that a bishop's hat?
Yes. or something
Okay,
remotely
great.
resembling it. I don't actually.
Because for some reason it made me think of like something Tibetan for some reason.
Like I said, he's got a little bit of Eastern accents, but his costume is mostly Western. But I think it's a legally distinct bishop hat, just to be safe. I don't actually know if the Catholic Church like has a market corner. It's like how like the if you use hey, internet people, don't use a red cross in your designs. The American Red Cross owns the trademark to that, but their trademark is protected by the Geneva Conventions. It is a literal Geneva Convention violation to misappropriate the Red Cross symbol.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those things that like you're never really gonna get sued, but you are by technicality breaking some pretty big code standard by doing it.
So don't do it. But yeah, So yes, Turpin's blade is described in some Japanese translations of the Song of Roland, like I said, as an ice sword that's supposed to like scatter snow as it's drawn or something. So they gave him a katana because it's a really weeb-ass sounding description, but they didn't actually make it ice. They just made it blue fire, which is cool and different.
Yeah, blue fire is always the dopest fire.
I also, once again, I like that much like Malgus, but Turpin has like dark, he's got like the black hair with the red accents. Like we're playing around with all the different color combos you can do. Also, this is a beefy boy. Look at those muscles. This guy lifts.
Somehow he is still lower stats than Malgus.
I know, it's very funny. This is a level 4 fire warrior again, no tuner, 1400 attack, 1700 defense. This is a deck where like they wanted to make sure that if you're equipping and gaining 500, that you're not making level 4s that are beating up other level 4s. They wanted to make it kind of even. So, 14 plus 5 is 19. That's pretty respectable. You've got a couple of different guys that are treated as equipped spells with 500.
Yeah, I mean, like we joked about the stats of the Infernobles, but it all fits into the pacing of stats when you take into account that so many of the Infernobles that equip give 500 attack, so it kind of
also
genuinely the curve.
This is a case where like this is not a swarm deck. You're not actually supposed to leave non-synchro Infernoble Knights just chilling on your board. You can, because some of them have like as equipped spells, some of them have protection effects. But you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go into one of your bigger synchros and like stop. Like you're supposed to make bigger guys. So it kind of makes sense that their stats aren't crazy. So Turpin's effect is, while this card is equipped as an equip card, sorry. I'm overcomplicating the grammar. The equipped monster can be treated as a tuner if used as synchro material. So he can just turn any card he's equipped to into a tuner. Which is usually warriors you control. You can use each of the following effects then once per turn. If you control a monster equipped with an equipped card, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. But if you summon it from the graveyard, banish it when it leaves the field.
You can just get around that by finding a way to equip it.
Yeah. And also, just in general, you have several of your cards have the ability to shuffle back or reset from banished. And then also, if this card's in your graveyard, you can target a warrior you control, equip this card as an equip spell. So any warrior monster you control can be a tuner now, if Turpin is in your graveyard.
He blesses your warriors with the power of learning to synchro summon. He shows your warriors the power of fish.
And his effect is his summon is again one of the most free in the universe. If you control a monster equipped with an equip card, free.
Yeah, like in Infernoble, you seize and you have 5 equip spells on the board.
Yes. No. It's a great extender, a great tool, and again, I really like what they did to diversify this deck. There are a lot of decks, like I just talked about Tenpai, right? Tenpai came out maybe about a yearish after this. That was like 2024 was when they hit. Tenpai is a deck that only ever got 2 tuners, one of which isn't a tuner all the time. Genroku is only a tuner when you summon it off of its poplar-ass effect to be, if you add this card to your hand except by drawing it, summon it, it becomes a tuner. They have 1 tuner, which is the way they killed the deck finally and everywhere is they limit 1 the tuner.
And in Infernoble, basically every I mean even disregarding Turpin, like 80% of the monsters are tuners.
Yes,
or can
they have the opportunity to become tuners. So like, this is a deck where your opponent cannot target and hate your tuners. They can't go, oh, that's your tuner in your graveyard, DD Crow. Oh, that's your tuner you're summoning, Solemn Strike. Because if they have, assuming they're just not out of gas, they probably have like 4 more possible tuners waiting in the wings. Like, any of those guys can be a tuner under the right circumstance. So once again, lends to this deck being super flexible.
There are still definitely there's still different targeted points in the combo to stop them, like nearly every deck. The problem is that they have a B, C, D, E, F line.
Yes.
if you deal with their A combo line.
And then they also got another Synchro, another Sync 5.
It was pretty funny. Like, she's technically not a Infernoble, but I mean, she's an Infernoble.
But she is a fire warrior who does reference the Noble Arms. This is Angelica, Princess of Noble Arms. This is a similar trick they did for Guinevere, because she's Queen of Noble Arms. So, you know, they're doing a funny naming effect. So this is Angelica, one of Roland's love interests, though the funny part of this is that in Orlando Furioso, Roland just gets over it. Like, Angelica's a big plot point character who's like Roland is you know, super interested in, and then he just, like, Astolfo just cures him of his lovesickness, and he's just like, I'm over it. Because he's engaged to an entirely different lady in the Song of Roland. But yeah, we're doing something completely different with the design, which is good. She's still got the warm color palette, but it's much more of a, like, peach or pink coloration.
Well, and also like Angelica's she's not a knight. Like she's not a warrior. Like, I mean, well, she's a warrior monster. But like she is not
mean anything.
Lowercase W
doesn't mean
warrior.
anything when you're actually talking about.
She's design-wise, she's not meant to be a fighter, so yeah, she doesn't have any armor or anything. She does have a giant-ass ring. Gee, I wonder if that'll come back.
Yeah, I sure wonder if that's an equip spell or something. Some kind of angelic ring.
But she does have a nice little hairband on. It's a nice headpiece, and, like, you know, she's got a detailed background. It looks good. We're doing stuff. It's nice. So, Angelica is a Fire Warrior Synchro, level 5. She's not a Synchro Tuna. But she is 5. She's got 1200 attack, 2400 defense. She is generic, again. They did another good thing with this deck of just, like, another reason why this deck is so good and flexible is they did not try and lock you down when it comes to your synchros. If you can get the right levels on the board in this deck, you can do what you like. So first of all, Angelica says, if this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Horn of Oliphant or 1 card that mentions Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles from your deck to your hand.
There are a handful of cards that do mention him. I did not realize.
Yeah. There's a way to... So basically, she acts as a way to search the couple of cards that you can't normally search. Noble Arms Museum and Epic of Charles are newer cards that are not equip spells and are not Infernoble, so there's no searching of them. Actually, I don't think there's any card that searches an Infernoble. They just search Fire Warriors instead, so...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is correct.
So they needed to give you a searcher. When a card effect is activated that targets this card on the field, or when this card's targeted for an attack, quick effect, so she's Maiden with Eyes of Blue. You can send a Fire Warrior from your deck to your graveyard. If you do, banish this card until the end phase and special summon a Roland from your deck or extra deck. You can use each effect once per turn. So, by the way, you don't lose Angelica. She just Time Thief Redoers herself out of this situation and replaces herself with a Roland.
She calls her Bay for help.
Yeah. Roland shows up to bail her out, and then she comes back later. First of all, this means that technically, especially if you can target your own cards, you do have to wait a turn, but you have an axis for rank 5s. Not that you need it, but you have a funny rank 5 axis.
Hey, you can make the Lancelot Xyz.
But, like, This just
think the Lancelot is super
makes her a really
right?
good part of the combo. Your Roland is not summoned properly, so you can't like get him back, but you can still equip him for his equip effects, and it just lets you tag out while also still performing a search. Like, this is a pretty normal but really good extender to just, you know, give you something to do. And she's still level 5, so she still sets up all your plays. Like, it's just, again, just good.
Yeah, like, just, like, falls into just, again, like, another just really good mid-range extending tool that prevents this deck from being easily targetable gaps in the combo line to go after.
Because it's like one of those things, right, where like, you know, it's she activates when targeted for an effect. So like, you summon her, you activate your search, your opponent goes Veiler, you go no, we simply don't do that here. Any other kind of stuff, like there are only some hand traps with target, but targeted hand traps, they don't work. That means your opponent also can't imperm her, because that targets. So your opponent plays imperm, you just go nope. Ash Blossom or bust, buddy. And then also something that happened a lot in Snake Eye formats. Ash Blossom is not a good card to activate against Infernoble, because your opponent is probably playing Link Hita, which means you've just given them another tuner.
You have now given them either another tuner or just free material for a Fire Princess. I forget her name now.
Promethean Princess, yeah.
Promethean
that's
Princess.
She's the one. Like there's just like, again, this is the strength of this deck. And the thing that I kind of like it, like, honestly, reading these cards, I'm kind of like, man, I wish I kind of built this up in Master Duel maybe to try out. Like, I wouldn't run the Smoke Grenade style, but, like, these guys are actually pretty fun. They got a lot of different little angles.
I still really like Charles. I still like Charlemagne the Link Monster.
Well, that's our next guy. And it's the funniest thing in
design I just think that kind of requirements for summoning should exist more just in other cards in general.
It truly is unique, and it's one of those things where, like, I like that it's unique, but also it shouldn't be unique. We should do this more, because this is really fun.
Like, this should be a thing of a lot of, like, upgrades of certain cards, where it's like, make it a special link one that requires the other thing, or like, if you want to do like iterative cards, do it where it requires iterations.
So this is Emperor Charles the Great. So this is the souped up, Knight Emperor Charles.
It's fucking cool.
He's got kind of like the same little eye guard, similar to Olivier, just more.
He's still got his little purple hair, which is good, but he's looking maybe a little older, a little beefier.
He's got an extra little swap of purple, looks like.
Yeah, he's got some extra in there. He's got a big red, still got the big red cape, but his armor's more silvery white now. The Joyeuse is burst into flame. So, like, definitely looking like an upgrade. It's one of those things where I do kind of feel like my eyeball gets lost easily because there's a lot of just lines in here. But
it's similar to Bradamante, where it's a lot, but it does not feel like a lot in an overwhelming negative sense. It's just like, it's a design that, like, you look at and you're like, damn, there's just a lot to take in.
I'm looking at a Fire Emblem Cypher card, like a Fire Emblem cover art thing.
This would be another card that would probably look cool with, like, a full extended art, because, just that the framing, like, cuts off the tip of the sword and the tip of his foot. Like, this guy could pop a little. Now, chat, you may be surprised when I say that this is a Fire Warrior Link 1 with just the down arrow, 3,000 attack, Link 1. So you're like, huh? Well, that's because this card has very, very specific link materials. Its link materials are exactly 1 level 9 Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles equipped with an equip cards. So you summon this by equipping a Knight Emperor Charles, and then you make this guy. If this card is link summoned, target an Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles in your graveyard. This card's name becomes that target's original name. It gains that target's original effects. Then equip that target to this card as an equip spell that gives it 500 attack. This, by the way, means that instantly you can make a pop, because it has Knight Charles's effects.
It just becomes Charles, but more.
Yes, because it also gains an effect, which is once per turn when a spell trap card is activated, quick effect, send an equip spell from your hand or face-up field, negate and destroy. Turns you into a negate.
We have now made Charles a DPE on top of the rest of it, what he does.
Yeah. This guy is pop 1 on summon and also just send an equip spell to negate and destroy. He's
I don't know why, but like, okay, no, I think the multi bit of like this like the forbidden code or something like negate and destroy. Like everyone's like the fucking order of monks chanting that.
But it's a spell trap negate, and like we said, this deck did not have a proper negate. It's a keyword phrase, I think, for that reason. You think to yourself. Also, I'm gonna be honest. While it can kind of feel like it's just like a thing we all say is negate and destroy, you think that until you run into a card that just says negate and does not say destroy.
I know. What I'm saying though is like, I just think it'd be funny if it's just like
the cadence of negate and destroy.
Negate and destroy.
The great are good. But yeah,
it's like that. It's literally that. Yeah. But
this is an interesting upgrade because, like I said, it's just Charles. It's just Charlemagne's effect. It literally gets his name, but now he's also a spell trap negate. Yeah, works pretty good with Phoenix Gear Free. There's a lot of other funny cards, and now also we got some spell trap support. First is Angelica's Angelic Ring. This was just Ring in Japanese, but that was a little too generic, so they called it out as Angelica's Angelic Ring. Sorry, my bit rate got a little choppy there. We're fine.
I forget.
Yes, sadly we did Angelica already. She was before Charlemagne, but it's a good card. Great. Well, like I said, she's a great funny card to include because she's made with Ice of Blue, but also she's a searcher on summon.
I'm trying to remember the card that does this effect, that way back when. The unconditional like just first negate. This card
it's one of the mermail armors. Is it Mizuchi, which is spells?
I think so.
So let's read out Angelic Ring. Equip only to a monster you control that's already equipped with an equip card. You can only control one Angelic Ring. Each turn, negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves. Once per turn, while this card's equipped to a monster, you can gain 500 LP, then destroy this card, and if you do, your opponent can't target the monster this card was equipped to with card effects while it's face up in the monster zone. So, this is just a first card your opponent activates negate. There's also a continuous spell that does the same thing. Is that Magician's right hand or is it left hand?
I can't remember.
Because there's the two Magician hands are continuous spells that say your opponent's first spell effect and your opponent's first trap effect are negated.
I do know that there have been various cards that have effects similar to this, but also the secondary effect is pretty damn powerful, I would say, because it's just a lingering condition that you can tack onto a boss monster you have on the board.
Now, I will say that I do not believe that is a quick effect, because it doesn't say during our player's turn. But still, it's
not a quick effect, but also like I don't see why if you're already in a winning position and you have a monster you want to protect and your opponent doesn't have
it's one of those things where like,
removal,
if they don't,
you would just throw this in the garbage.
If you've already used the spell negate, you can just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Also, it does say you can only control one at a time, so if you've got a second one, you can just equip it again. But yeah, and I think that like gaining 500 LP is funny, but I think it works out based on how this card works in this deck because, like you said, this is a grind game deck. Well, in real life, you have to worry about time limit win, like your timing around and life points. Well, what if you just gain 500 life points? You
do that.
It's a kind of a time card in a weird way because it gives you 500 LP, then you destroy the equip and you get lingering protection, so you can cycle back and recover a little. Well, I don't actually think this prevents Super Poly. Super Poly doesn't target. It's uses cards on the field as material. Super Poly dodges a lot of things. But it does prevent a lot of other things. Your opponent can't Forbidden Droplet it, I believe, because it's a lingering can't be targeted unless Droplet says select. But I think it's target.
Let me double check Droplet.
Yeah, I mean it's a lingering protection that's permanent. It doesn't end ever. So
choose that mini.
Okay, so not
Incredible.
targeting. But still, there's a lot of common stuff like your opponent cannot imperm you. They can't do a targeted pop with DPE. Speaking about DPE, because that's target pop. Like, it's just a good effect to have. There is, like I said, an unfortunate nature that it's not a quick effect where, like, if your opponent has an ignition effect, they have to fire it right the fuck now. But I think this is why it's got that effect to negate their first spell trap, because, well, it doesn't work on monster effects. Your opponent can't flip something like a Phoenix Wing Wind Blast or whatever, like, 1-for-1 trap card that they've got, right? And then pop you. It has to be a monster effect to do that, and so you have some room to, like, grab and move on. Well, yeah, it's their first effect, though. If your opponent has multiple spell effects, you get to cycle through. So still very, very spicy. And as we mentioned, we did get the All Mace as well, and like I said, it's a very funny image because it's like, well, I'll pull it up and after the slight latency catches up, you'll see. But they really took the whole it being a katana thing to heart here with this. Yeah, no, we're squared down.
I do like that the hilt is just removed from the sword, and it also looks like we have the rings of the katana, or was that
no? That's what the
connected?
crossguard, the Suba of the sword look like.
Okay,
they've
All right.
So they're displaying this weapon in the. There's even like Japanese characters behind it, but this is how typically famous Japanese swords are displayed in a museum. They take the whole thing apart, so you've got the handles taken
Alright.
off, the handguards taken off, and you've just got like the blades sitting separately. So yeah, they did a very funny thing here where they're like, well, it's a katana, so let's display it.
I know I was going to say this, but I'm amazed they never just actually did a a type of like noble arms, but it's just like samurais. With, like,
I
famous
think it's
katanas.
because famous Japanese swords don't work like that. Like, there aren't famous Japanese swords that are tied to a single, like, myth, basically. Like, there is kind of legends about the competition between Masamune and Muramasa, but those are also probably, like, exaggerated historically. A lot of other, like, famous Japanese swords are kind of all over the place. There is, obviously the 3 regalia, but there are several archetypes that reference the imperial regalia.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, the 3 regalia is just so it's the same effect to, like, oh, let's reference the 4 heavenly kings in our thing. It's like,
well, and I think it's the equivalent of like Western stuff representing like referencing like the 4 suits of playing cards or the 4 tarot suits. Like you see those kinds of like recurring themes all over the place of like, yes, we've got 4 guys. What are we gonna do? Well, one's hearts, one's diamonds, one's clubs, one's spades. Like we just. There are these recurring tropes, so the 3 regalia are just shortcuts for, like, mirror, jewel, sword. What if they were also all swords? Oops.
I mean, there's a character in One Piece whose moveset is just, I'm the 3 regalia.
I don't know. It's all very, very straightforward. So yeah, All Mace here is our new equip spell. While this card's equipped to a monster, you can equip one Infernal Arms equip spell from your deck or graveyard, except All Mace to one appropriate monster you control, then destroy this card. So All Mace is just all your other equipped spells, 3 more copies of Durandal. And then also, hey, we're talking about recovery. Well, admittedly, these are, once again, only one per turn, only once that turn. But if this card's sent to the graveyard, because the equipped monster's sent to the graveyard, turn one of your Fire Warriors that's banished in your graveyard, add it back to your hand, add that sucker back.
And get him back.
Send him back. 10,000 more years of Infernoble combos. So All Mace is another, like, just great add, because its effect is to basically hot swap to a different one. So, if you didn't draw Durandal, but you drew Almace, you can just get Durandal. Or if you do actually want, like, maybe you're running a 1 of Joyous and 1 of Hot Claire. If you do actually want their effects, like, off the dome, you can switch. And I think its on send effect is worth playing on its own because it's just recycling. You know, you just loop that shit back.
Almost definitely feels like it feels like it's not to the level of Durandal, but I mean at the same time it gets you Durandal. It gets you whatever you want, so it's an easy like 2 to 3 of I would say in most builds.
I also think that since Isold got banned, you probably don't run maximum number of equip spells anymore in this deck. Like you can't just play equips to send equips. You gotta be a little more clever with them. But I think there's still room to make it work. And so let's talk about the field spell they gave this deck, which is very funny. Regular Noble Knights has their field spell of Camelot, which I believe is Realm of the Noble Knights, so it actually has that. The field spell Noble Arm Museum, Great Holy Sword Museum, does not specifically mention it, but it is a Noble Arms card, and it does have Charles in its text, so you can search it with Angelica.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual appearance of the card is it's the aforementioned museum, you know, so it's got the swords in it, it's got some extra swords in the back there. And I think it's got some of the other noble arms are just back there too.
The payment cost seems very specific for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know if that's supposed to be a reference of paying to enter the museum. I'm not sure. Noble Arms Museum is a field spell that says all fire warriors gain 500 attack.
Solid. Just out the gate, solid, good.
Honestly, this kind of card makes me feel like for Noble Knights, they should have made like a card that was like the author for the Noble Arms or something. Like
there's a few cards that not the book, but there's a few cards that reference the actual like events later. But I feel like Noble Knights is almost much more like we said, like fantastical. Like the cards are stuff like, you know, Heritage of the Chalice.
Yeah, it's about the legend. I guess
Noble
Noble
Arms
Knights more about like I guess because it's more about actual figures, I guess, in a weird way.
But yeah, so 500 attack, just flat modulation, pretty good. Means that honestly, like a lot of your like level 4 guys are like decent, and all your synchros are like pretty good for 5s. Hell, it means even Angelica's, she's like, what, 12 by default? So that means her 17, you know, God forbid. So once per turn, you can pay 1,200 LP, add 1 Noble Arms card from your deck to your hand except Museum. So just search Durandal or anything.
Or search Almas to get Durandal, and we just deck them for free.
Yeah. Because you can, you can equip those cards from graveyard to guys. Or, again, any number of things. Also gets you all of the default original Noble Arms cards, the Noble Knight ones.
Can also even get you until Noble Arms are needed once again, I believe.
Which is a great card. Let's see. Let me see if it actually lists. No, it just lists the Fire Warriors. I don't know why it wouldn't list the Noble Arms in the tips page, but it doesn't. Anyway. Once per turn, if the previous effect was applied this turn, you can target a Noble Knight monster card in your spell trap zone, special summon it. But if you activated this effect while you don't control Charles, you can't special summon monsters the rest of the turn except warriors.
It's a very funny way to force Charles into the card text. I like it.
Yes. But it is a cute way because it does reward, like, it basically, if you go full combo and you end on Charles, you get to set up to keep going because you get to summon back one of your guys who's equipped to him.
If you weren't already warrior locked by the time you get to Charles.
Which, to be fair, you might not be because, like we said, very few of... It wasn't until, like, this last wave of the Infernoble Knights that they actually locked you. I believe Isold does say warriors only at some point in her lines. But for the most part, your deck is pretty thin on locks, so you could get around it. But also, you probably don't care if you do get locked because it's warriors. Who cares? There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Getting warrior locked is like getting dragon locked.
Yeah.
Oh no! What am I gonna summon with all my? What dragon monster could I possibly summon?
All right, Dragon Ravine search now. Good day, sir.
Yeah, I know. You're like, I'm dragon locked. Anyway,
I guess I'll starve.
I guess I'll just. Actually, no. The fun.
It's like if you're playing a hero deck and you get locked,
I guess who's gonna draw on the dragon blood first? Not me.
But yeah, no. So like, this lets you just summon back your guys who get equipped to get more guys to extend after you've searched a Noble Arms. It's very funny. We like it a lot.
Yeah, and even in a timing sense, say for example your Ogier or your Malgus that are equipped, you can summon them off note. You can summon them off museum, and get the effect again, and just get that cycle going.
And it does, like I said, allow you to use some of the other ones. So, for instance, Arphadotir is a pop a set card, lose 500 attack. You know, can only be equipped to a warrior. Excalibur says can only be equipped to a noble knight. You probably wouldn't equip Excalibur because it's like about Xyz, but still. But like, you know, they show all the cards. What's regular Caliburn's effect? Gains 500 attack. You can once per turn you can gain 500 LP. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target a warrior-type noble knight, equip. It just comes back. Okay, yeah. Like, honestly, you might play Caliburn in this deck.
I mean, probably. Like, if there are any decent little noble arms to throw into, I can probably see is just getting a little cheeky with them.
Yeah, just, you know, and I think it's Noble Arms of Destiny is the one that's like, this card can't be destroyed, you know, and it re-equips itself once. Like, it's just an annoying little protection card.
Once per turn, it can't be destroyed by battle lore card effects. So it's just a flat one. Like,
yeah,
just get one free one. And also when it's into the graveyard, target a war type monster you control, put it back. It comes back.
Sorry, I did that in the wrong order.
So
I cleared my image and tried to copy my text.
I guess in theory, you could like Charles. You could get really cheeky with this in Charles.
Yeah.
Like you get the first protection off, and then at some point you get another protection, so you pop this to pop another thing, and then you just put it back on Charles, and the protection resets because it's a new instance of the card.
Yeah.
Funny.
And speaking of Charles, our last card is the trap card, Continuing Epic of Charles.
This is my favorite card art, I think, of the archetype.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
It's just presumably what the artist who drew Infernoble Knights is doing. There's like they've got the fucking PC chair, they've got the RGB PC down there, they've got their monitor and their art tablet.
This basically feels like this is a ladies' room. This feels like a ladies' room for some reason.
They've got.
I mean, the Infernoble Knights are mostly hot dudes. Yes.
They've got a plushie of Malgus
and Roland.
They've got a. Is that Joyous? It's
yeah, I think that's Joyous' handle. So they've got a little Joyous model.
Yeah.
They've got a reference book
they've
open.
Got a little, a reference book, a little coffee mug. There's like their little stylus plate, a desk, and they just got a drawing tablet that they're just designing Charles.
Yeah. So no, this is great. So this is a a normal trap. Is the Continuing Epic. It says, reveal one Noble Arms equip spell in your hand. If you do, special summon an Infernoble from your hand or deck, then equip it with that card. Or send it to the graveyard. So you don't even have to equip it. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target an Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles you control, equip one Noble Knight from your hand or deck as an equip spell that gives him 500 attack. You can only use each effect once per turn, not only one that turn. So this is a searchable trap off Angelica if you already have the field spell.
Honestly, this kind of card just makes you think of I don't know, but I always feel like this card's not like connected to like the museum idea, but I don't even know because it's like, I feel like they should make more cards that are actually just showing the dev process. I guess we
could get a little meta. It's fun. So yeah, like I said, this trap is searchable off Angelica if you've already had the field spell. You can just draw it. Its first effect is just special summon an asshole from your hand or deck, and then equip it with a card. Or don't. Just send the equip card to the graveyard.
So, reading this, I think in theory you could get some Noble Knights that give 1,000 attack.
Yes, because a couple of them do say already. Like I think the original Roland says he counts as 500.
Some of them already baseline give 500. So this plus museum.
And also, I believe Charles's effect is equip a card that a monster is a card that gives him 500. So like this can turn into the OTK tool we've talked about. Like give you a way to close out games.
can very quickly get a Charles that is out of hand.
Which is good because, like we said, this deck is normally a grind deck, but as the game has gotten more advanced, a lot of the formats that have been competitive have been very fast. We're kind of cycling back. Like, I think some of the games you've got with, like Malice and Ryzeal can be very explosive, but they can also be kind of grindy depending on the interaction, so you can actually, like, go back and forth a couple of turns. Sadly, I think Blue Eyes is, it's not quite Chaos Max OTK, but your intent with Blue Eyes is usually to make some big fuckers and swing.
Yeah, it definitely falls. It definitely falls into a situation where this card alone does not make Infernoble an OTK deck, but it gives Infernoble a shock OTK tool that the opponent may not be able to fully plan around.
Yeah. And like I said, this is both effects can be done. So, hey, what do you do if, like, you know, you summon out a guy, you set up your plays just to, like, summon up guys in your opponent's turn to get interaction, and they're like, okay, well, I've you know, cleared out your back row or whatever. I'm going to attack over Charles, and then you go, oh, no. I can use both of these effects in one turn. I'm just going to equip a guy from my deck to Charles when you attack deck in battle phase. Fuck you. He gains 1,000. Like, that's...
my Charles is now 5k, eat shit.
Yeah, no, like, it's one of those things. Also, hey, by the way, that triggers Charles's effect, too, so if you haven't used your pop somehow, like, if your opponent opens with, like, you know, Feather Duster or something, or otherwise hasn't played any cards you want to pop and they got rid of your equip spells, it's another way to proc Charles's effect. Like, it's just, again, another really good card, you know, continuing Epic of Charles. This did not make this deck meta again in 2023, because, like I said, like, let's see, Duelist Nexus was, it's got that big Stardust on there, but let me see, it's...
2023.
Yeah, 2023. That is Rescue Ace.
Late 23.
Yeah, late 23. So that's, like, this is truly the Year of Fire, but that's got the shit, like, the new Evo tiles that are good, Folus and Leos. That's got Sharvara and Shiyama, which made Unchained good.
Yeah, this is a card I like to call it like a jump scare card. Like you pull this card out, and this is what trap cards should be in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, where, like, sure the card effect is hard to parse out at its base just because of the wordiness, but it, like when you break it down, it's two fairly simple effects that both are very powerful little tools that, if your opponent does not keep track of, can easily bite them in the ass, and that is what trap cards should be.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of, like, sometimes we say when trap cards, right, it's like, well, to get this card, they have to see you search, which means they just won't play into it. But even if they don't play into this card, you can just activate it yourself if you've got the materials in hand. You can force an activation to put it in grave to get its other effect.
Yeah.
Or don't. And if your opponent pops, it's in engrave. You can still use both effects. Like,
this is not a trap card that this is not a trap card that by searching it outwardly telegraphs what you're going to do. Like, say, I say that I don't remember anything but off the top of my head, but like, for example, I'm just going to go back to this because it's the big thing in my head right now. That was one that I had built in Master Duel. A trap fire formation, like is it Gyoko? I think the one that gives like 700 attack or some nonsense.
Yeah, I believe most of them the ones do the trap ones do when activated is 700.
Like it's not like that where, like, by searching it, it's like, well, I just want to attack now. Like, I'm not going to attack into that. But this is a trap card that is just more general utility trap that also has an extra effect tacked onto it to work as just an extra little resource in your back pocket.
Yeah. No,
honestly,
there's just so many fun things.
I know in high level Yu-Gi-Oh! Tricks don't matter, kind of. But honestly, I feel like it'd be interesting if, like, Battle Tricks were just put more into actual, like, other cards that just did other stuff, so people actually bother to play Battle Tricks. We're kind of hitting
a point where Battle Tricks are coming back into vogue, so to speak, just because of the sheer the sheer grind game that Yu-Gi-Oh's going back to, battle tricks are kind of becoming not necessarily like prevalent or mainstays, but we are starting to see a handful of little cheeky battle tricks tossed in.
I feel like the way Yu-Gi-Oh works is like we go in cycles. Like there was a big push several years ago. Trap cards don't matter. Trap cards are pointless. You don't got to worry about back row. You know, there are cards playing only 3 imperm. Hey, then decks like Labyrinth happened, and it's like, shit, I have to care about back row. How many back row did they set? How many Labyrinth traps are back there? You know, what normal traps did they set that can remove a monster from the field? That's their whole combo.
For a good half a decade, if your opponent set cards, you're like, oh shit, I'm going up against stun, all right.
But, you know, maybe it could be like, oh no, they're playing an actual, like, interactive control deck if they're playing Labyrinth. Like, they're gonna compulse my guy and then plus off that. Shit, what do I do? And then everybody was like, okay, so that means the battle phase doesn't matter, right? Like, it's just cleanup. Well, then...
No, we made Tenpai.
Yeah, we made Tenpai, and Tenpai was like, hey, guess what? If you're not prepared for the battle phase, you're dead. You better stop my 1 point of interaction or be prepared to battle. And I think even now, there's after, like, Tenpai's been kind of, like, throttled down, there are still decks that are, like, setting up for big OTK swings. Like, it's really interesting. Well, and I say drawing the line between battle tricks and OTKs. I don't want to spend too much time because we've been going for 3.5 hours. But, like, I think the difference between, like, an OTK-style strategy is when you're guaranteeing an OTK, you have to gain enough attack no matter what, or make enough attacks that your opponent is dead. Like, the point is to make a double attacking Cyber Dragon or a triple attacking Cyber Dragon that does, you know, piercing or something. Or it's the, well, Chaos Max has 4,000 attack and double piercing damage defensively, right? Like, you're setting up so that your opponent will die after the end of this battle phase. Whereas battle tricks can be done on your opponent's turn when they try to attack over your monsters as like a form of removal so that they are not removed. And that's a much more interesting zone of interaction that I think can still be done. And there are a few, I want to say, like, there's battle-related traps that are destructive, not necessarily attack modulation. Those have been super popular in the past. They're not as popular now. Like, you don't see people running Depriz and Sakuretsu because, like, 1 point of interaction is not really good. But, like, sneakily doing shit like Epic of Charles when your opponent, like, enters battle phase or declares attack, then they're not looking because they forgot to check your graveyard, you know. That can really get them because that's at least 500. If you pick the right guy from deck, that could be 1,000 or 1,500. And like I said, that triggers Charles's effect instantly to pop one if you haven't already used it. So, like, your opponent might not be set up for that. You know, that might make them make suboptimal plays. So, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very interesting game. I do think Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a very high skill ceiling, to bullet point that conversation earlier, but there's a lot of fun interactions, and one thing I've learned after being kind of, I want to say being back into this game for about 5 years. Hey, by the way, I own a lot of those Infernobles. I bought a box of Rise of the Duelist, so I own a lot of those guys. Most of them are pretty low rarity. You can't accept common knowledge. When people tell you things like, oh, trap cards are dead, don't listen to them just because. Trap cards could still have been good, and probably were still good trap cards that were being printed, but everybody said they don't matter, so people weren't looking at them until they were incentivized to do so. Same with the battle phase. Like,
yeah, a great example is, I mean, buried in MBT's many Twitter thread videos, there is one breaking down a lot of formats that on revisiting, people realize that there were so many other great, amazing decks in the format that people just didn't see. A great example being GOAT format, where, like, the traditional GOAT format deck that everyone knows, and like if you ever played raw GOAT format, like that, like the GOAT format, like GOAT control deck, is broken down to a science of like 35 cards and maybe 5 flex spots. That GOAT control deck is maybe like the 10th best deck in the format now. That now that's been revisited and people have not solved the format, but have broken down a lot of the card pool within it.
Well, and also talking about common knowledge, they've also, like, learned new things, because, like, people didn't always used to think good cards were good. Solemn Judgment used to be considered bad because you have to pay so many life points. But like modern theory is like, no, it's a negate, dude. It stops anything. Fuck it.
Yeah,
the only life point that matters is the last one.
Where, for the longest time, the Dark World deck that was attempted to be played when Dark Worlds first came out is nothing like what the Dark World deck that people playing now revisiting that format is even adjacent to. Like the like good Dark World deck is a high roll like pitch deck, whereas the Dark World deck that was attempted to be played was a more low to the ground, trap heavy, like counter strategy deck.
Yeah, and the actual way you play Dark Worlds is just, all right, I'm going to summon my entire hand like 4 times over. Fuck you. Like you just pray to God you're, danger Dark Worlding out enough discards to make enough guys to make some big fucking shit.
You high roll like
Grapha.
It's a high roll strat.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
And Dark Worlds are fun. It's just one of those things. Miserable Mirror though. So yeah, like
it's funny, but it is kind of miserable.
There's so many cases where like deck paradigms have changed, and like yes, I do think there's a little bit of power and feature creep in Yu-Gi-Oh. Obviously, with like new extra deck monsters, that's to be expected. But like, there is also a case where just I think that Konami takes second cracks at mechanics that didn't work as good. Like, there were a few decks designed to mill you out before like Runic, and they were all bad. So everybody was like, Runic's bad. But then it turns out Runic is not actually an engine by which you mill out your opponent's entire deck. That's an engine where milling your opponent is a mere side effect to just playing good quick play spell cards that have like a consistency engine in them.
Yeah,
so
think about
your opponent just runs out of cards slightly faster than you.
Think about how everyone thought Runic was going to be played when it first came out, or like everyone thought Runic was going to be like a mill deck or whatever, and no, it's just an incredibly great like control strat.
I mean, it's still got mill. It's still.
Yeah, I mean, they still mill, but that's what I mean. Is like they don't. The intent is never to win by milling. The intent is just to fuck up your opponent's deck consistency by milling, maybe 10 to 20 of their cards rather than all 40, so that they just can't come back. Honestly, because you're also playing good card effects.
I've played Mill Runic. It's not as good, but like it's fun because it's like you pull it off right, you can't just fucking.
I mean, it is funny, but yeah.
I feel like you have 2 turns. You only have 2 turns of plan until like.
I feel like what you call it, like Ishizu Tearlament is kind of another similar station of the overlap was crazy of just like, how do we build a deck that's designed around dumping your own entire deck into the graveyard? Well, the idea with the Ishizus was it was definitely supposed to be for the Exchange of Spirit and Exchange of Spirit retrain. But that just also made that this deck that sends itself to the graveyard for card advantage was so ahead, and it really turned it around. It's a very funny time. But we're waxing a little long. We should roll on out of here.
Yeah.
Because my voice is getting a little dry. I need to stop.
We
do have a Patreon poll winner. The Patreon poll winner is going to be Forbidden One / Millennium. So we will talk about Classic Exodia at the front of that. After all, to summon the ultimate Exodia guy, you need the 5 Forbidden One monsters. So like the old cards kind of link into the new cards. But also, I want to talk about shit like Exodia Necros to remind you that like this is not the first time Konami has tried to make Exodia a consistent thing.
We also should talk about Exodia. We also need to talk about Exodius.
Yeah.
Konami's tried to make Exodia alternatives a thing like 10 times.
There's also the rock version of Exodia.
Yeah, we've actually talked about Exod before because we talked about the rock deck, but we can mention him again because he's a weird guy. But yeah, no, like, so that'll be interesting to talk about. Because
we also get to compare the normals, the new ones, just to like what we do with Meta.
Oh yeah, no, as we usually do, I will bring up what retro monsters the new Millennium monsters are referencing, and that means we will technically talk about a Blue Eyes card because they made a weird Blue Eyes Millennium.
Hey, listen, I got Blue Eyes.
Yeah, it's Grandpa's Blue Eyes. But yeah, it's just they got a lot of funny stuff out there, so we'll check that out next week. I believe we're back on for streaming FF14 tomorrow. So thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. If you want to vote in the Patreon poll, support us on Patreon. We'll talk to you guys later. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stuff. Good night, everybody.